You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Your whole life, you've always heard about your dad's Nebraska football team.
Nebraska will win the national championship. The Cornhuskers beat Miami 24-17 and win the national title.
Now they're about to show the world they are your Husker football team.
Ball is loose. The Huskers pick it up. Mackay Bear gets the fumble. Robinson forced it. Huskers have it.
The Nebraska 2024 Bowl Bid, Round 2.
We're looking forward to it. We just got to go do it now.
The Challenge.
100% of my focus is trying to get our offense better to where we can win against Wisconsin on Saturday.
The Hope.
It's not about hope. It's about action.
The Pain.
That's a rematch game from last year, right? It's that pain of walking off the field in overtime. It's an opportunity to come back from that.
The Struggles.
It's shocking to me that it's been that long since a program like this hasn't been to a bowl game. Doesn't make any sense to me.
The Dreams.
We tried everything we could to win that game last week, and we're going to try everything that we can to win this game this week.
The most anticipated game in Nebraska's school history.
We're right there. We got to go finish the damn thing.
The Nebraska 2024 Bowl Bid, Round 2. The story continues.
Has some time. Steps, throws down the field. The pass. He's intercepted. Picked off by Sierra Wright to the 30, 25, 20. Sierra down the near sideline. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Nebraska. Steps, throws left. Pass. Caught it immediately blown up on the edge. What a hit made by Marquise Buford. Straight back is Raiola. Pass caught. Splitting the defender is Emmett Johnson to the 10, to the 5. He is in there. Touchdown, Nebraska. Emmett Johnson makes a catch. A little short dump over the middle of the field. And Nebraska right back within a point.
The Nebraska 2024 Bowl Bid, starring Nebraska and Wisconsin.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Hi, how are things?
We're doing all right.
I feel like I'm talking to myself. It's a little loud.
Dancing with yourself? Dancing with
no,
myself.
but it was a tremendous morning for music.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You have a nice little mix on the way in?
And at home, so it's pretty eclectic. Follow along, if you will. There was a sprinkle, just a sprinkle of Dido.
Ooh, okay.
Little White Flag. We went with Adele.
Okay. Rolling in the deep?
No. There ain't no gold in this river. Easy on me.
Okay.
Low Phil Collins.
Okay. In the air tonight?
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum,
About 30 seconds of about 4 songs.
Okay. I'm guessing Zoe was in control of this one.
Nope. I didn't see her until the very end.
Yeah.
And Casey and JoJo.
Okay.
Very underappreciated.
You big Casey and JoJo guy?
Yeah, in the 90s, that was my...
That was your jam?
Yeah.
All right.
And then we went to a smidge, only about 150 seconds worth of Teddy Swims.
Okay, you do love Teddy Swims.
Yeah, he did a deal with I don't know, some country dude.
Mm-hmm.
And it came
Jelly
up,
Roll?
Nope.
Okay.
No, you know I would know Jelly
Yeah,
Roll.
I know.
I can't remember. He did it the other night. And it was on my algorithm. So then I found it. So I played that for a smidge, which was nice. But I struggle sometimes, like when I see a song that I know is like about somebody's, this particular song was about Teddy Swims and his ex and what he went through. And he's singing it with the country guy, and I'm like, it's not the same.
Yeah, because the country guy didn't go through it.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, and he did it with Kelly Clarkson, and she ruined it because that's just what she does. I was like,
Kelly Clarkson just catching strays out here.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. But she's such a nice person. Shane's back there laughing. And then I
slandering Kelly Clarkson.
Sorry, Kelly. And then I closed it out as I pulled in.
Yeah.
With a little Brian McKnight.
Okay.
So it was I was all over
little
the place.
90s R&B.
Yeah. I like Teddy though.
Yeah, you do like Teddy. You're a big Teddy Swims guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is that again?
That's right. Sear.
Sear? Oh, that figures.
Yeah.
Sear Wright revenge game.
Hey, those guys, man, I'm pretty pumped. They want their locker room back.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Man, I kind of walked myself into
Yep.
that one.
Yeah, for sure.
You did not think there was going to be a follow-up question to that statement?
Yeah.
Who's they and who they getting it back from?
You asked me the same question last year.
I'm not just going to let you off the hook.
See, that's the problem, right? You'd think after some years
That
I would know that this thing is on and we're not just chopping it up like in my driveway or on the couch or
like when you just
shooting the breeze.
Like when you just let it out that some quarterback's committed that nobody knows is committed.
At least he stuck with the
Yeah,
commitment.
that's true.
I was a smidge early, but I just was like, ooh, blurt, 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 blurt.
And I have to be like, yeah, things are trending well for TJ Lateef.
Yeah. Whoopsie. Yeah, so sure. Just the vibe in the locker room. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. That's convincing. It's convincing. So hypothetically,
Oh Lord.
if you're in
Claude, have mercy.
if you're in a locker room
Uh-huh.
and you start off 5-1, you're having a nice year,
Uh-huh.
but there's some kind of external noise happening.
Yeah.
And then you go on a 4-game losing streak and things aren't going as well.
Oh, hello. How are things?
Maybe you get like
I'm trying to deflect.
maybe
This is my attempt at Teflon.
maybe you bring in an offensive coordinator last second.
What are you talking about?
Maybe there's a demotion in the ranks. How exactly do you, just hypothetically, how would you think the temperature of that locker room would be?
I mean, it could
Hypothetically,
it could
It's
be
physical.
like
It's hard. It's cold.
sure.
Don't-
And they want a warm locker room again.
don't help him, Shane.
They want a warm locker room again. I just think, like, hypothetically, sometimes, like when you're in the midst of something, you don't realize.
Like it's slipping away from you a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you hit pause.
Yeah. Have a moment to reflect.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, let's go back to the.
So
things
I
that
got this from DJ.
Okay.
DJ will tell me. He'll say, "Hey, press pause." And I used to think, I'm like, why is he telling me this like I'm 7?
Well,
You know what I mean? What? It's awful early for that. So let's just say, like, hypothetically, you press pause, you take a step back, and you're like, okay.
you can evaluate.
Yeah. Like real time.
Yeah, just take a second.
And then maybe you want what once was again.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, well, because there's
And Sierra Wright is a guy that I think can champion that.
I like Sear, right?
I do too.
A lot.
And
I
what's
didn't
fun?
think I was going to.
Me neither. Me neither.
I don't know if it was the Space Jam thing or whatever, but I
Nope,
was like, how much does this guy like football?
I thought he was too Hollywood.
Yeah. I was like, how much does this guy like football?
But it took about 3 weeks for me to come around.
Yeah.
Because he had to get back and he went through it to get ready.
I don't think it was easy for him to get to where he is.
And he was patient. Because he's playing for a guy that is pretty no nonsense.
Yeah, you heard that last night with John Butler.
If people listen to Husker Sports Night, there was a lot.
Which they should. There was a lot in there.
Like, if you want a snapshot into, because now so the new flavor, the new 2-gap of the last 2 weeks is the secondary.
It's
right?
the boogeyman.
It's If you don't keep bringing up John Wick.
Sorry, it's the Baba Yaga.
So where was I yesterday? And somebody showed a picture. Oh, in Nebraska City.
Yeah.
So
folks.
they always have somebody that like is in the audience, and they take these pictures and they like put their head on a stick. So yesterday it was Caleb and John Wick.
What do those two have in common?
They just run attendance.
Silent
So they like
assassins.
put their face on chairs.
Yeah.
Deion's been there. Mike Tomlin's been there. My sister from like the 80s had been there.
Has Tupac been there?
I
don't know if he stopped by when he stopped by West Side to get the gear.
Nope. Tupac hasn't been there.
Hasn't made an appearance yet.
Matt Rule's been there.
Oh, that's nice. Comes to see you talk. That's nice of him.
It's weird. It's funny. I always like one of the cool things about going there is like, oh, whose big head is bobblehead is going to be taped on the chair today.
We're gonna have a Teddy Swims out there.
So yesterday it was John Wick.
Okay, John Wick and Caleb.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I was going to ride with him because I'm very, very, very particular, and I try to be. The only thing that keeps me sane is that I coach, so I stay current with kind of how personality traits are. Because it would be easy for me to just be like, well, it used to be like this, and this is what works, and this is how it should be. But the kids keep me current because I'm like, okay, you got to kind of roll with the times.
Yeah, you got to figure.
And how much do you have to roll with the times without compromising?
Yeah.
So he's been one of those guys where I'm like, yep, I ride with that guy. But probably early on I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
This was too much.
A lot going on.
But now the thing, my favorite thing about him is he competes. Like the moment is never too big for him.
Yeah. I mean, we saw that last week.
It's just not too big.
Like it would have been really easy.
I wanted to ask him.
I don't really know.
I don't know him like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, how come you can't catch your breath? Like, are you having? Is this anxiety from scoring, or like, why are you still sitting on the bench? Why didn't you come back in?
Well, maybe he's got like asthma or something.
I don't know. But hey man, you got asthma? I'm not doing that.
If he could.
Oh, that didn't feel right. I know you pretty well, and I'm like, I want to say, why do you eat those stupid Crustables? But I feel some type of way because you may have a valid reason, so I don't ask. But while we're at it, why do you eat those stupid Crustables?
You act like you didn't ask me that like 30 seconds before.
I wasn't listening to the explanation. I did hear you say sugars.
Yeah, I can't wait till.
But I was listening to a story.
I can't wait till 10 or whenever I'll actually get to eat the breakfast that the lovely folks here at Hurrdat Sports.
You could get a 2-egg plate, which, by the way, we apologize. It wasn't on Eventbrite. Or maybe it was. And there was miscommunication. I don't know. I've known her so long, she can talk with her face. She didn't say one word, and I know what she's saying. So you can get the 2-egg plate. You can get the biscuits and gravy. Of course, there's the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And then there's the sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich.
You actually going to eat that today?
Yeah. But you know what I thought of?
What's that?
This is the first time since I can remember, like, I will eat dinner at home on a Friday night.
Yeah. No game tonight.
Clearly. You're such a genius.
Well, I mean, there's Creighton, Nebraska. It's J-Sker night.
Yeah. That doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me at all either. I like mostly because I am one.
I like both. I love. Do I love Creighton? Yeah, I love Coach Mack. I love Coach Mack.
You love Coach Mack.
I love Coach Mack.
Yeah.
So that's like I love Coach Mack.
So you'll ride with Creighton because you love Coach Mack. Because he's the guy that because you used to not like Creighton.
Yeah, he got me.
And Coach Mack got
me in.
Yeah.
Because I knew I liked Flan, but I didn't really know him. So then I started seeing him around town.
Flan's great.
He might be the GOAT.
Yeah.
Now Kirsten will give him a run.
Yeah.
Like it's close.
They have a lot of really good coaches over there.
It's close.
Yeah.
But I had always been a service guy. But I thought, it's just baseball. He lets me come to practice. You know what I mean? Like I thought like he was just doing me a solid.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Mac. I remember Nebraska was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And on a humbug, on a limb, I reached out to Coach Mack via text. My man hit me up. And I was like, you know what?
I think I remember this. This was during the Frost era, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yep. And I was like, friends to the end, Heidi ho. Ha, ha, ha.
You're like, you made a mistake. Now we're in.
No, he just was so cool. And then, lots of things have happened since then.
Mm-hmm.
But, AC's been a good bridge.
Yeah.
Adam, who
well, and Coach Mack's been generous with us with his time. And
so we don't
take advantage as much as we
right.
Probably should.
I probably should.
Yeah,
probably should. But
same thing with Coach Rule. To be fair.
Yeah, he Coach Rule is. Did you listen to his presser yesterday?
Oh yeah.
Coach Rule's not messing around.
No.
So it was funny. I was talking to one of the guys in the media, and he is of influence.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I wish Coach Rule would have been like this from the beginning. And I thought about that. I'm walking out to practice, so I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of processing I'm not walking out to practice, I'm walking in the building. And I'm thinking, do Do we want that? Do you want the coach rule that you heard yesterday? Would you have wanted him from the beginning?
I'd like to know what people think the main differences are.
So he's coming across now as less tolerant. You know what? I should have asked for clarity. Because I should have asked for. Now he did kind of explain, and I don't want to read this verbatim, but
sure.
So
I think I think maybe his tone has changed.
Okay, so I'll say this.
Okay.
I think I can say this because I'm not saying his name.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what he said. Please forgive me if you're going to be mad. No, because this is between me and him. But I do think this is an important sentiment because it's exactly how I feel.
Okay.
And you know this because I talk to you all the time. I wish they had been a little bit tougher on Dylan. At least propositioned a red shirt. Maybe signed a transfer, do something and said, hey, Dylan, it would have been tough at Georgia. It can't be easy here. And I sat in my car. Matter of fact, one of my coaches was going to a dentist appointment early, and I wanted to go early so I could talk to him. And I kept honking at him, and he wouldn't roll down his window. So I was like, man, that's why I hate this dude. And he just drove off. But when he came back to practice, I was like, hey, man, why didn't you stop and wait for me? I was like, I had to go to the dentist. I was like, oh, you're off the hook. Because in my head, I was like, totally hate beating you up. Like for the last 88 minutes. I was like whooping you in my head. But anyway, like that's how I feel. Then he said a couple of other things about the tone that he's setting. And I can't stress enough, L3, that I just think Holgerson is a breath of fresh air emotionally, even though Dana will rev high on emotion. It's just not everybody else's.
Well, I mean, that could
Holgerson right now is the guy that they can look at and say, oh, man, what he said. Did you, like, he just kind of low-key slid in. Dana's putting a lot of pressure on guys. Right? Like, see, that's a good thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And as
you got to find out what's in there.
That goes back to my locker room comment. Got to
find out what's in there.
Because a month ago, I said it, I think I felt like on the comeback, like on the flip side going back to it, I was like, maybe I was a little harsh. Where I said, you need to put things in through the colander, the sifter, whatever you people call it. Give that thing a shake and eat what's left.
See what's left.
That's exactly how I feel. So that's what I'm championing right now. Because I think cream will ultimately rise. And the little part that you have to skim off and blot with a paper towel and use the little spoon thing and discard, you don't want to eat that anyway.
Yeah.
Get rid of the skimmers. Right? And I'm not necessarily anti-player because I almost never am. Right? I'm usually, but sometimes, like you're just doing too much.
But what's best for them and what's good, what feels good in the moment isn't always the same thing.
Sometimes those things don't coalesce. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you about the Dylan comment there because I do think that's interesting, and that's the example that he used, right?
Yeah, and you know that it used to make me mad.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I convinced myself I love Dom. The family is super good to me. He's competitive. He's talented. Just ride. But then there's this other part of me, like the 80%er, that's like, man, I played with some real dogs, and nobody ever let them run the show. Everything was like earned. You know, that's what Game Dog couldn't understand when I said about T. Fraze and or LP or Wiegert or Ed Stewart or even Trev. Like even people tell Trev, like, man, STFU, go sit down somewhere, right? He had a Perella.
Yeah.
Right? Perella had a Rainmakers. You know, Neil Smith had a Lawrence Pete. Like everybody kind of you need those guys because what's my ultimate fear? Partly it's because of my failures, right? You never ever want to fully be turned over to yourself. Always have some checks and balances. Same thing I said about Rule when he first got here.
Corrupts absolutely.
The same thing I said about Rule. He's so dynamic and charismatic as a
really
leader.
Easy to give him everything.
Everything
he wants, and you hope he's good enough to handle it.
And I'm like, that's a lot of pressure on that guy. I said it from day one.
Yeah.
I could just
You
tell
said
as an
early.
orator. I'm like,
It's going to
this
be
dude-
really easy to give this dude everything he wants.
Yep.
Right?
And
Especially-
and when he let me know that the hardest thing about this job was going to be to keep his staff from thinking this is Disneyland,
Mhm.
I knew I was like, that's going to be his greatest challenge.
Whereas-
Because he identified it early.
Whereas Dana Holgerson could be standing in the middle of the teacup ride and still not think he's at Disneyland.
By the way, I'm getting ready to start that series.
I don't think Dana Holgerson thinks Disneyland is Disneyland.
No, he is. I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
'cause
balance.
It's so I don't know if it's going to work or not. I just know they need his temperament.
Yeah, the dynamics are right.
They need his temperament.
So here's the thing I would say.
They've got a brilliant speaker.
Yeah.
Feel free to have a guy that's a little rough and crude around the edges.
Yeah.
A little mix and match,
He's
right?
a little nasty.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the Dylan thing, though, because I do think that's an interesting point.
Why?
Because I wonder a couple things. Number one, do you think if we believe what they tell us about Heinrich Harburg, it explains not bringing in a transfer more?
I mean, would you like to be more specific with the
Sure.
example?
So,
You're supposed to say, glad you asked.
I'm glad you asked, DB. So
I don't really believe that. Shane, do you believe that?
Your friend asked about why they didn't bring in a transfer, right? Like, hey, put a little pressure on him.
I don't know if I would call him my friend.
The person that texted you.
Yes.
So my question is, if they
No offense if we're friends.
They look at Heinrich Harburg and they're like, okay, that's the guy that started 8 games for us last year, won 5 of them.
Mhm.
This is a guy that we see getting better all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they viewed him as the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they thought he was good enough to be, or is good enough to be the pressure for Dylan, and they didn't think they needed.
Well, it's just funny
to bring in an
that
extra.
you use that as the example because, well, actually, it's good, dude. So it's funny you say that because when they took it down to the wire,
Mhm.
and everybody was like, "Well, no kidding, he was going to be the starter." See that they missed the mark because that wasn't the point. Wasn't well. Would you wait so long you knew? The point was you had to have some other attributes that you needed to develop before we said okay. The physical thing wasn't the issue. And the funny thing about that with the eye roll and everybody's sarcasm and you do it all along. I don't know why you just didn't make the announcement. Those are like the same people now that are like, well, I wouldn't mind a little bit of sprinkling in of Harburg. You know, it's like, well, why now?
Yeah.
You know why? Because Coach Holgerson freed you up on Tuesday when he made the comment about competition. We've seen this before with skill guys or guys that have been anointed. Adrian Martinez, does anybody remember the freshman year from the sophomore year? And the 18 pounds and the not competition and you want guys to be challenged. So don't chastise and eye roll a coach or coaches when they try to create an environment of competition. Right?
100%.
You can't have it both ways.
Don't get have both. Can you name me the best backup quarterback that Adrian Martinez?
And I'm not saying, listen, and Dylan clearly is. I mean, he's got a chance to be really good. But he's like regular people that they need to be sharpened daily as well. You don't just get to roll out of the womb and be like, man, job well done. Right? It's still progress.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You have the decision to make as a coaching staff, headed by Coach Roll down through, Coach White, and then nearly to me and the rest of the staff. It's like you could become very, very basic and just line up, and everybody knows the coverage you're playing, and everybody knows the defense you're playing, and you're just relying on fundamentals, execution, physicality, and playing hard. But there's a balance of that with you have to have a level of multiplicity so that your scheme has some strategic answers. And so obviously there's been not only a play this weekend, there's been a couple plays throughout the year where you might have an option to, like, the call comes in and their coverage is optional, not optional like they can pick whatever they want, but there's choices. It's a choice coverage, and a lot of it's dictated by what the other team is showing us. And their job is to try to protect their hand. Our job is to try to protect ours. And there's been a time or two this year where the communication has not been on point. So what you just try to do is you test them again, you push them through that, and then you evaluate the worth of it. Is it worth, hey, we're going to play this to this, maybe that to that? Is it better just to simplify? And, I think there's a fine line there. It kind of goes back to your conversation about coaching NFL players with college players. You might put more on the plate of an NFL secondary just because they have 8 hours a day that they're doing it. When these guys are in school and then they have other things going on. And that's always, I think, a concept that a coaching staff is wrestling with, is how much is too much and how much is too little.
Welcome back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Make sure you come out here where we're at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We've got our last live breakfast of the season here this morning. We got food, we got drinks.
And I only have one friend.
We got tickets to give away and a parking pass from our friends at Tickets for Less.
You can't let TFL beat us here.
That's true.
And he beat us here.
You got to make sure you get out here. I know we've got some friends coming later, but come on out. Come on out.
I don't understand. Like, what are you sleeping in for on a Friday? You guys don't have jobs. Like, what are you doing?
I think some of them might have jobs.
Ryan barely has a job. Somehow that guy is convinced the free world that he's this financial wizard and he does what the heck he wants to do. Kind of. I mean, is T. Mose not the epitome of Kramer? Who knows what Tyler Mosman does? Does anybody know what Tyler
I've tried
Mosman does?
to ask, and it's unclear.
Yeah, it's very vague.
I've asked very specifically. I'm like, so what is it you say you do here?
Yeah, exactly.
And, I get some corporate nonsense, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like a real job, T-Mose.
It's crazy.
How are you just always out during the workday?
So, wow, now you guys are going out, huh? I wasn't jealous.
A little bit.
You both had bougie taste. Why you make it seem like I'm jealous?
That was me.
Wow, now you guys are going out, huh?
That was me and Travis was the bougie taste guy. Travis S.
No, but now you guys are going out. I was talking about T-Mose.
That was Mose, yeah. T-Mose.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't hung out a little bit.
Yeah. So does that make sense? What he was talking about when everybody says play younger guys?
Yeah.
Shane, play clip 6.
No.
Not clip 6. Play clip 7.
I think we have a really good core of younger players that not only have the skills that are required, they have the football kind of brains that I'm looking for. I know Matt has talked about that at length, at least when I've heard him speak, is there's a football skill set that's required, but there's a football character that I've always believed in, and I've heard Matt characterize it as the football brain, that you're like, there's a level of, you have to study the game as much as it's the physical part of it, and learning and applying that learning quicker. And I think that, I always tell these players, even when I was in the NFL, it's like when they come back for bowl practice, hopefully we're fortunate enough to play in a bowl game, or they come back for spring practice, and then they come back for training camp. Like, it's the same. You're taking the same class every year. You're just becoming more and more experienced in that class. So now when you come back and hear the terms that we're coaching the second time around, it's not like, because the first time you're around, you're like, what does that mean? And then the second time around, you're, okay, I'm hearing it again. He's saying it the same way. Okay, there's examples of me doing it right. So it's the compound learning of, it's not like you're in school and you're going from calculus to trigonometry or whatever the stages are. You're not like, okay, I'm going up to now I'm in a elite level class. It's like I'm learning the same stuff, and now I'm learning more about it within that same class. That kind of is the analogy I like to use. And then they become so comfortable with the system, that it's just becomes second nature. And I think that the continuity of the staff, the continuity of the players, the continuity of the system is such a valuable thing, because if they're having to learn a new defense every year or a new offense every year, you're just never getting that level of, foundation.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I think that I always have this battle within my head of continuity and what he's talking about, learning year over year and that type of thing, versus making things simple enough that you can get your best players on the field. Like that was always the struggle with Bo, right? Is you're like, hey, why does it take guys 3 years to get on the field in Bo's defense? Mm-hmm. When I can go, and I get it's a different caliber of athlete, right? But I go watch Alabama, and you're telling me Nick Saban.
Alabama.
Like, obviously Nick Saban's a defensive genius, and he can find a way to get true freshmen on the field on his defense, but Bo Pelini can't find a way to get freshmen on the field on his defense. Like, so there's always, in my mind, there's always that internal struggle of simplifying things so the best players can play and having that institutional knowledge year over year.
So the thing about it is when he's talking about like the checks, because that's Nebraska City's finest.
Oh, there we go.
He is the king of the pictures on the tables. I feel like this is a poor representation, because when I'm out seeing you guys, it's like packed. You come here and it's like, this is how people really feel about us. This guy's hilarious. So, the whole thing about, do you want them to be able to make checks? I go through this every week, right? Mm-hmm. I'll show you plays from Indiana, or I'll show you what happened against Ohio State, or I drew these guys yesterday, the over route against SC, and why that play. Do you want the flexibility and the creativity to be able to check into and out of plays? Do you feel like there's a certain level of things that people should know that should allow you to check? Because if you listen to, I see the wheels spinning, because it's the dilemma, right? Because what Coach Rule will tell you is, listen, if we're in cover 2 and you're a cover 2 safety, play cover 2.
Be in cover 2.
If you're cover 3 and you're 3 deep, you're deep third, like not that hard.
Don't let anybody behind you.
Play deep third. So there are those base things that you ought to be able to do that are solely the player's fault. Solely the player's fault. Because it's like I always say, when you want to assess blame, if it's a pet concept and it's something that you do all the time and it lacks execution, that's on the players. If it's installation of new concepts or checks and communication and it's not novel and you still do it anyway, that's on the coaches. Right? So what should you be able to run where you say, nah, come on, man. Like, are you guys really going to blow cover 3 again?
So I think that's where people want to see the young guys, is because it's like, okay, if the old guy can't figure out the pet stuff, the basic stuff, the base stuff, the cover 2 or cover 3, then there's got to be a young guy that is going to play cover 2 when you ask him to play cover 2. I think that's where people, because if you're playing an older guy and you're like, I'm playing the older guy because I want to have the flexibility to have some checks, right?
Yeah.
But the guy that can do the checks can't do the basic thing, then what good are the checks?
Yes.
That I think is the struggle, right? Because it's like, okay, he didn't mess up a check. He's not talking about, Coach Rule at least is not talking about guys messing up checks. He's talking about them messing up the thing, right? The basic thing, the cover 2, the cover 3. Like that's your pet play, your bread and butter, whatever you want to call it. So he's not talking about, we tried to check into something and there was a miscommunication and whatever. He's like, hey, just play the defense we're in. So that's where I hear, hey, if this guy can't play the base defense that we're in, that we're trying to beat in, then just go find me a young guy that will.
So we don't have the clip. I'm going to see if Sasha can find it. He makes those comparisons with young and old secondary. But if you're a fan and you see something happen and then it happens again, or they do things over and over again, do you want to know why?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why you have to have the ability to check into and check out of. Because what you don't want to do is, it's no different in sports, right? It's like if you keep getting beat with pin downs and flare screens, or you want to play drop coverage and guys are hitting mid-range shots on you, and you want to say, we talk about this with Creighton all the time, right? Drop coverage. If you're wanting to give up those mid-range jump shots, those pull-ups, those elbow jumpers, and you're like, oh, hey, you know what? You're just going to have to beat us doing that. And fans at some point will say, oh, my gosh, Team X is making those mid-range shots. Can we do something different? Where are you in those situations? Because that's how you decide,
for sure,
how much you want to get into and out of coverages, because everybody's down on the secondary.
So here's the analogy in that situation, though, is if Creighton's playing a drop coverage, but instead of being in drop coverage, they're late and the guy gets all the way to the hoop, then what good is being able to switch out of drop coverage? Because that's what's happening.
So you're fast-forwarding to the end result.
Well, I'm fast-forwarding to, if you're not in place, then the original coverage doesn't matter, and the ability to check out of the original coverage doesn't matter.
I'm listening.
We've got our guy, Cam Lenhart, somebody who knows a little bit about football and defense from Bennington, coming up next.
We will be back. be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Make sure you come out and join us today. Coach Cam Lenhart from Bennington is joining us on the phone. He's playing for yet another state championship. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Coach, I just get the feeling that that's not going to get old, right? My partner doesn't understand how hard it is. He's like, playing for yet another. Like, you just roll out of the rack and you play for state champions.
No, I went to Miller North. I understand.
Oh, wow. Coach, you kind of, at least on the outside looking at, you have the perfect personality for this, because every time I see you, you're so even keeled and just buttoned up. Like, this has to be kind of a cool stretch for you, where you get a chance to put your personality traits and what you believe in to the test, knowing that you have to keep your team in the moment, day after day, then week after week, game after game, until you can even get to this point. Like, that's a nice little blend, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's really awesome to just see everything that we preach and everything that we ask our kids to do come a full fold. And, just the success that they've had is all because they choose to do the right thing every day.
Coach, as you've kind of gone through this year, obviously it's been a little bit different than some of the past years because you actually had to deal with a loss. How did you as a coaching staff and the guys who really hadn't been through that process kind of react to that and respond to that?
Yeah, well, I guess it started immediately after the game, and when we met as a team, and I told the kids, I'm really excited right now because now I get to truly see if what we preach on a day-to-day basis is what you guys actually believe in. Are we going to come back with the idea that we have to get right back to work, or are we going to sulk about this? And so, what kind of mindset do we have? And our kids showed up the next morning to watch film and get better. So it was good to see.
Coach, there's that kind of old cliche, you learn more from a loss than a win. Like, did you find guys' ability or I guess even willingness to be sort of coachable and absorb what they needed to do to not have that feeling again? Did you see any change in that, having experienced something they hadn't yet? Yeah, for sure. I thought our kids did a tremendous job at first admitting that we have weaknesses. Like we have spots where we have to get better at. And it's comes down to, are we going to make the choice in practice to do that? And so I was really impressed by how many seniors stood up and said, here's what I did wrong. Here's how I'm going to fix it. And we had a lot of guys who came and said, hey, Coach, this is what I know I need to get better at. How do I do it? And so I really commend our kids for having that humility to know that they didn't play their best game or they have spots where they can improve, but they want to get better at it.
Coach, this is you coach. This is probably a little too simplistic, but we were talking on Neb Preps earlier this week, and I said the interesting thing to watch as I'm kind of preparing for this broadcast is Scott has a little more big play ability, like can get it in a chunk, whereas you guys are so good defensively, it has to be earned. There were special teams scores galore the first time around. Have you kind of pinpointed where you want to be better or what you think some of the differences may be the second time around?
Yeah, I think time of possession is one that I really focused on. If we look back, Scott had the ball for a lot more, I felt, than we did, especially, in that last drive where they drove down to kick field goal. But even before that, where we kind of sputtered out on offense and couldn't get a drive going, and they could consistently go. And even if they didn't score where they had to punt, they were still taking a lot of time off the clock. And so I really think that needs to be reversed, where our offense needs to be consistent in terms of just driving and having the ball. And I think the biggest thing is when we have the ball in offense, that means that Mr. Van Dyke and Mr. Kallega don't have the ball in offense. So,
yeah. Coach, it's always interesting when the state championship is a rematch of a game that's already been played this year. How do you feel like you guys are different than you were the first time you played Scott?
I think just in terms of running the ball, I think we have a little more confidence in what we're really good at.
Yeah.
That would be one. I think we've really leaned on that the last two games in the playoffs especially. And like I said, in terms of finding our weaknesses, it's good to know week 8 where that's at so we could make adjustments. We had to make adjustments quick playing Elkhorn North and following week. And so, yeah, I think just of where we are defensively from week 8 to now is different as well. So.
Coach, it was interesting the first time we talked to you, which didn't seem like that long ago. You kind of like the breakdown of the schedule because the district was so tough and it's highly, highly competitive. Do you feel like this is the payoff where you've gone kind of through the grind down the stretch, you get some familiarity with opponents, and now you just kind of get to settle in to do your thing? Is that closer to your wheelhouse, or would you rather kind of have something new and different?
I think, it's really hard always playing a team twice, but with Class B being as small as it is, you're bound to do it at some point in time. So I think where that benefits you is now, how do you get creative enough and how do you make sure that you don't do the same thing over? Because every coach is good in Class B, in my opinion, and they're going to game plan and try to stop how it happened the first time. So where do you find differences? Where do you come up with something new that maybe is a different wrinkle or just something different that the coaches haven't seen that gives you an advantage that second time around?
Coach, as you get into the game, I always like to wonder the few things you'll be looking for as early indicators that your guys are kind of in the right place early to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, I'd say making sure that we get that run big game going right off the bat with the offense. Having Kyler be able to come over on the offensive side has been a big thing for us, and I'm assuming we'll continue to do that with him and Goots. That's kind of a nice 1-2 punch. But then on the defensive side, just making sure that we try to create as much fits as we can for, like I said, the Scud offense, who's very talented. We have some things that we think they can help us, but at the end of the day, we have to execute those things. And so making sure that we get the run game going and try to execute those adjustments will be big.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch the last week and a half. We kind of took a step back. Padilla and Sautter and I, and we're thinking, oh, my gosh, with Lordson carrying the ball 20 sometimes down the stretch is kind of a hammer. And you mentioned that combination. How I get it. Fantastic wrestler, tremendous elite physical fitness. There's never any drop off in his game. Is this kind of what you had planned all along, to kind of be able to have the hammer late with such a good player like him?
Yeah, I don't know if it was something that we had naturally planned. I really believe in our one side of the ball philosophy. But at the same time, when you have a kid as special as Kyler, and he has the ability to do things with minimal practice, and it can still be really efficient, I think it's crazy not to have it in, at least in when you need the opportunity like we had to have come last Friday with Elko North, that you don't pull the trigger and go.
Is this? I hesitate just to ask the question. This is probably more for selfishly, Coach, for game prep. But you've got tremendous players on all three levels, right? I'm looking at Jansen and KL and Bovee, who's really underappreciated. Is it safe to say that Kyle is kind of the reason you guys can do what you do defensively, given his versatility? Even though you've got a ton of good players, he totally seems like the anchor that you drop in the water when you want to steady that ship.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We're able to do a lot of things differently than maybe I would do if Kyler wasn't in the game, just because we have that confidence that he can take care of his side. So no doubt about it. We definitely make adjustments knowing that he can do certain things that maybe other outside linebackers can't.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, full disclosure, because when we're trying to come up with guys to feature in the open, it's like, man, there's a lot of good guys. But I think you helped me land the plane, man. So I appreciate your authenticity, Coach. I really do.
Coach, I got to ask one last thing here for me before we get out of here. I know that you were in the semifinals, just kind of this meat grinder fist fight game with Elkhorn North. Do you like having that type of game and then, just a couple extra days off to get you ready for that state championship?
Yeah, if I'm being flat out honest, I want to win big every time. Those close games.
I love it. Finally, a coach that tells me the truth.
Yeah, those close games are a lot of fun, but I'm more. I'll take a big win every time. But do I think that it helped us? Oh, of course. Our kids had to make plays when the time matters. Everyone says that a game always comes down to 5 or 6 plays. You don't know which ones they are, but you got to make them when they happen. And I just think our kids did that. We had some big plays that went in our favor, and so knowing that our kids can make those big plays in big games just gives me that confidence that when we go to play one more big game, that they'll make them again.
Amazing communities, amazing staff, two good ones. It'll come to a head on Tuesday. I'm pumped, but not nearly as excited as I know you are, Coach. Wishing you the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for this.
That's Kam Lenhart, Bennington football head coach, and finally the first honest coach I've ever met.
He's great.
I want to win by 100.
It's like you're doing prep and you look at kind of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, I like this guy. I like this guy. I like this guy. And, you want to do the community justice. I think you got to start with Lordson. He is.
Yeah.
God, is he good.
That's
and I'm biased, right? Because he's a wrestler.
You love your wrestlers. That's fine.
Yes, I do.
No, that's a great matchup. That's the matchup everybody wanted in that class. You get the rematch of the upset earlier this year. I don't know how much of an upset you can call it.
Yeah, and it's the offenses are polar opposites. You got the explosiveness of Scud and Bennington will grind you.
And Scud's even kind of polar opposite than what they were last year in terms of offensively. So that'll be a super fun game. That's on Tuesday, the Class B game with the Class C games as well on Tuesday down in Lincoln. So we appreciate Coach Lenhart joining us there. Joining us next will be Tim Verghese. I know it's a lot of your guys' favorite guests. He's coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I think our preparation, as I said, has been good every week. I think they're, the veteran guys, the senior guys are locked in, especially the guys that have, as I said, there's 30 seniors. There's a lot of guys who've been here for 5 or 6 years. So this means a lot to them. I think the gravity of the situation is not lost on them. And I know how much they'd like to win. I know how much they'd like to be the ones who broke through. At some point, someone has to do it, and lots of guys have tried, and we haven't been able to do it for a long time. And so someone's got to break through and get that 6th win. And we're on the precipice of that. We haven't been able to do it. We weren't able to do it last year. We haven't been able to do it this year. I will bear all the brunt of us not being able to do it. But when we do it, I'm going to give all the credit to the guys. And so I think they've practiced all week, and they've prepared all week, and they've spoken and walked and talked all week like a group that wants to get it done. They wanted to get it done at USC. They wanted to get it done at UCLA. They wanted to get it done. They've wanted to get it done. So it's going to come down just really to execution, the matchup, how we match up with Wisconsin, the things that we do well. So I've just encouraged them to focus, and I've encouraged them not to shy away from the gravity of this, to lock into it and lean into it. And, the only way out is to go through it. So they've got to bust through this week.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. You can join us down here for breakfast this morning as well. Get on down. Joining us now.
Smells delicious.
It does smell really good. Joining us now is our guy, Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. What's going on, Tim?
Hey, not too much. How about you guys?
TV, just trying to make it, man. We're getting ready for this Goliath known as Millard South, and the mini Goliath known as the Wisconsin Badgers. So you know my personality. It has been trying to find some distractions. It's hard to come. And the Steelers took it on the chin last night, but at least I expected that, so that was okay.
Stinky line.
I told you.
Stinky
I
line.
told you.
You
the
did.
Browns, yeah, lock it up.
Nobody told me that Creed was playing for the Browns, though, because then, like, they were there pregame. Otherwise, I never would have bet on the Steelers.
So, Tim, are you buying the Jameis Winston being a caricature of himself, but everybody, like, all in on him now? Like, this is weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's
kids eating snow last night. I'm like,
I think he's just kind of embraced the character at this point. Like he is a character. He's not a individual anymore.
So you think he's enough? Is he enough to save Stefanski's job?
I don't know. I think a lot of that there's like, yeah, I think there's a lot that has to change up there. I mean, they've put themselves in the situation they're in, which is the tough part. Like, you know, there's no blaming anybody. There's no one to point the finger. It's like, this is the quarterback you wanted. You hand selected him. You paid him this contract. He hasn't played well, and you know, now he's hurt, and you have to eat that money. And nothing around it is working either. And you know, I do think that defense is good, but Stefanski's an offensive guy, and if the offense isn't working, I always say this about coaches where, you know, if it's a non-CEO type, if the position you're in charge of running, or you were brought in for, like Brandon Staley with the Chargers, if the position you're running isn't worth its salt, then like, what are we doing anymore? Like why are you still there?
Hard to justify when Bo Pelini's giving up 70 a game.
Hey! Why you
just as an example, you know, I think it was only 62. It's fine. But Tim, as we head into this weekend, I know we're getting closer and closer to signing day here. I know this is obviously last home game for Nebraska, so it's kind of a big push here. We talked last week about some potential flips. How are you looking at this last, what are we at, 2 weeks now before signing day?
Yeah, I think this last visit weekend is crucial. Like I just put up the visit preview for guys that are expected in town, and I could still see a name or two being added potentially, you know, just depending on who actually shows up tomorrow. At the same time, I think some names on the list right now might not show up. We're talking flips. Aiden Manitai, the safety from Hawaii. Nebraska's hoping to have him in town either starting today or tomorrow for the weekend. But Cal's making a push because Cal's trying to keep their class together. So it's kind of like a wait and see type thing with him of does he actually make it into town? Cal has a pretty legit quarterback of their own in the 2025 class. They're trying to hold on to with Oregon and Georgia pushing. They've got him coming into town. He's from Hawaii. Aiden actually just beat his team in the playoffs. And so, you know, there's a chance Aiden just goes with, a guy from the island back to the school he's committed to rather than Nebraska. So that's one to keep an eye on this weekend. The other one's Jeremiah Jones. Nebraska's hoping to get him back in town this weekend as they're battling Mizzou for his commitment. Mizzou has made a big push there this fall. They've had him on campus 3 times over the last few weeks, or the last few months, actually. They had him at the end of July. They brought him in for an unofficial visit in like September. They had him on an official visit earlier this month. So Mizzou's the school to watch there. They're the ones that they feel confident on there that they're going to pull off the flip. But Nebraska's supposed to bring him into town this weekend. Again, but what we're hearing is Mizzou's going to try and prevent that from happening. And so if he doesn't make it into town, I think writing's on the wall. He's going to end up at Mizzou. But if he makes it into town, I think Nebraska's got a real good shot of potentially calming that water and holding on to his commitment.
Tim, is all of this, and I'm not blaming you here, but it all sounds very dramatic when it's like, man, like Mizzou's trying to keep this guy from going on a visit. Like I have visions of DeAndre Jordan getting like, you know, isolated in his house with trying to get him to sign in Houston or whatever. Like I get these very dramatic, like spy thriller ideas in my head. Like when you're saying, hey, they're trying to make sure Jeremiah Jones doesn't get to Nebraska, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's just communicating of like, hey, like we want you, like this is the reason why, like, you know, we talked about this on the official visit. Like, this is why you should come here. Don't take this visit I'm sure there's some NIL benefits involved too, of some like, hey, don't take the visit. We'll throw a little something. You know what I mean? Like that happens. That's just like kind of the world we're in now.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think? What do you think happens with Mills?
We'll see. I think he ends up in the class. I think Oklahoma, last night they lost their quarterback in the 2025 class. I think they're going to see a couple other losses here in the cycle. Their lone 5-star offensive tackle commits visiting Texas this weekend. A&M's trying to make a late run there too. So I think Oklahoma's kind of in this weird position where they kind of have to move quick on their own offensive coordinator vacancy to try and calm some of their waters, because a lot's up in the air. Their O-line coach, their wide receivers coach. I think the big thing with Mills is going to be what happens with Emmett Jones. Right now, I think the belief around Norman is it's not necessarily a guarantee that whoever the new OC is, Emmett Jones remains the wide receivers coach. I personally think that's a mistake. I think Emmett Jones is a good receiver and a good developer, and has had a bad stretch of just injury luck this year. But if they lose Emmett Jones, I think Cortez Mills ends up signing with Nebraska. But I also believe that's a recruitment where he's the type of kid, and not just, it's not on him, it's more so his recruitment. You could see a Clemson swoop in late. You could see a Florida swoop in late. Florida's getting pretty aggressive here with NIL here at the end of the cycle. We could see a couple teams kind of swoop in late, especially if Nebraska doesn't take care of business and get that 6th win.
Yeah, Tim, how is Oklahoma trying to blame this on the wide receiver coach when their top 6 guys are hurt?
Yeah, it's not the receiver. It's just like for them, it's like they need a change they feel like they need a complete change at the offensive side of the ball. And I just don't think that's the case. I think the position coaches are quality. I like Emmett Jones. I like Bill Bedenbaugh. I think Bill Bedenbaugh is one of the better O-line coaches in the country. I think his history speaks for itself. His evaluations, his development speaks for itself. And the fact that it's even like a conversation at this point that those guys might not be around next year, I think it's a little silly and a bit overreactionary to just a poor year in terms of injury luck on the offensive side of the ball.
Tim, you had a ton of questions in the mailbag about the secondary. Ravi and I have been talking about Coach Butler last night, and kind of this premise that, hey, are we doing too much? Is this not enough? Do we want to be able to check in and out of things? Is it safe to say that, like, when you look at the secondary, has this been the biggest head scratcher for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the inability for the front end and the back end of the defense to be on the same page consistently. I thought that was something that might figure itself out over the course of the season. I also didn't expect it to be as much of an issue. I kind of thought with how late Butler got into the program and into the system, I thought it would be like, okay, Tony's communicating everything for the defense this fall, and it's going to be all under Tony. But it very much feels like the front end of the defense and the secondary is segmented based on what John wants the back end to do and what Tony and Rob and Knighton want the front to do. And so, yeah, that's been a little bit of a head scratcher. What's not been confusing for me at all is why they're struggling, though. Like it feels pretty obvious that they have an athleticism deficit back there, and Rule has tried to address that by bringing in really good athletes. Uber athletes, I would even argue, and a mix of good football players and good athletes. But most all of those guys need development, and this wasn't the year for those guys to kind of step into bigger roles. And so you're seeing, like Jeremiah Charles is getting thrown into action, an elite athlete by every stretch of what by the word means. He's elite, but he's not a football. Like, he hasn't played a whole lot of football snaps, a whole lot of snaps at cornerback. So it's a guy that probably needs another offseason, maybe even another season in like a reserve role before he's ready for starting minutes. In the back end, you're playing Gifford and Singleton out there because those are the guys with the most experience, the best communicators, and do provide you a burst in certain situations. But when you face the USC types, when you face the Ohio State types, when you face these teams with elite athletes and receivers and you need guys to win one-on-one matchups, those aren't the guys that can do that. You have those guys, hypothetically, on the depth chart, like somewhere in there. Those guys just aren't ready to play football at the Big Ten level just yet.
All right, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, because he talked about, Coach Butler talked last night about coaching older guys in the NFL versus younger guys and kind of the transition of what's too much. Give me your thoughts on this clip right here.
No, I would say that would be the biggest difference. It's when you're coaching a college kid versus coaching an NFL player for me for 10 years, there's an adjustment that's required in my my brain. Just there's certain things that they're capable of at this level and there's certain expectations that I'm not saying you lower the expectations, but they just are not as experienced. And when you're coaching a 32-year-old Micah Hyde versus a 18-year-old Caleb Benning, that's 14-year difference in not only life experience, but football experience. So you just have to understand. And I've had some good conversations with Matt about that. Matt's been great. And he's like, hey, John, you got to readjust your eyes a little bit and understand that, don't ever lower your expectations, but there's a certain level of, development that you've just got to keep focusing on and take the small victories, because I think we have a good core group of young players that now that I've been here, what has it been 4 months, I see the development now, where initially I was like, oh, okay, we got a long way to go.
Yeah. So obviously that piques my interest because I'm like, yeah, like that. And I know what Coach Rule would say on the alternative. How important is it that you think those guys understand getting on the same page of risk reward is something that as a hurdle that the staff in terms of continuity has to get over as well?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but that's the statement overall of just like, hey, as a coach and going from the NFL down to college, you do have to kind of shrink things down a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there's an element too of and Damon, I'm sure you can speak to this too, of like cornerbacks at this age, like kind of are going for the big play rather than the safe play. And you saw it with, I think, again, a good example, Malcolm Hartzog last week. Again, like that's a busted assignment, and he was kind of put in a bad position. But when you're in that position, sing towards the receiver and then high point the ball. Don't do it in such a case where you're jumping up or like again, it's more of that case of like as a young DB, there are times where you see guys kind of get greedy and try to jump routes, and it's like you're saying, that high risk, high reward. They try to jump routes, and if they miss it, it's a wide open touchdown, or it's a busted coverage. I just think, I think it's going to take some time, but I mean, I'm of the belief, I was talking to Steve about this week. I'm of the belief that I think the secondary is going to look a lot better by the end of this spring than it does right now, just because I think a full offseason with Butler, getting his verbiage in there, getting his coaching tools in there, is really going to help the secondary out a lot. And I think they're going to be aggressive in the portal about getting some difference makers in the back end too.
We're talking with Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. Tim, when you hear Coach Rule say, hey, when we're playing cover 2, we just need our guy to make sure he's playing cover 2. When we're playing cover 3, we need to make sure he's not getting beat deep, because that's his job as the deep cover on that one. Like, when you hear that, to me, it sounds like, hey, the guys we have in there are not doing the basic things. And I guess my question is, in your mind, what value is the experienced guys if they're not doing the basic things?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And it's like, that's the thing. It's like, it's been, for the most part, they've been playing the right assignment. It's just they have a handful of busted coverages, and those are some of the big gashing plays that hurt Nebraska last Saturday, and it's hurt Nebraska across the course of the season. I mean, you look at the Tommy Hill stats of just like when he's been thrown at this year, and it's like, that guy's been injured, and you can question why has he been out there and why they keep trotting him out there when he's been injured as much as he has. But you're not wrong. Like, again, I do believe at a certain extent, it's like guys got to make plays. But then you see, hey, they put Jeremiah Charles out there against UCLA. That first drive, he's the one that's getting picked on the entire first drive. So it's not like the guys behind them are necessarily ready just yet. I think they will be. I just think they're just young.
So on a national level, TV, level of surprise with what Bryce Underwood decided, and does Juju going to Colorado give you any kind of inkling on the national level of what either one of those schools, Colorado or Michigan, will be capable of as they finish the tail end of this recruiting cycle?
Yeah, I mean, Bryce is massive, obviously, and I think a lot's been talked about with the NIL situation there. It's like, LSU didn't necessarily put up a competitive offer back up, but this from people I've talked to doesn't sound like it came down solely to NIL. I think Bryce is a smart kid. I think he has an idea of what they're doing there, and Bryce is, in my opinion, one of the better high school the top two in this class specifically, him and Tavian St. Clair, are two of the better quarterbacks we've seen in a couple of cycles, and that includes Dylan. Like, I think Bryce is one of the better guys we've seen. I think I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence, but I think it's a guy sooner than that. But Bryce is the best we've seen in a good bit, and I think he's a guy that's going to step in and have those reins pretty early, just because his dual threat ability, his control in the pocket, and the athletic upside with him. I think the sky's the limit for him, and I do think that Michigan team, it just really depends on how they continue to build, because they lose a lot off that defense. You lose Colston Loveland. I think they're going to get aggressive here in the portal and in the end of this high school cycle and trying to replenish some of that talent. They've got good depth. It's just the top end of that talent isn't what it used to be. So I'm curious to see how they surround Bryce. Juju on that end, I mean, man, just like credit to Dion and credit to that staff for what they've done this year, because I didn't see this. I kind of thought this was going to be a year where, you know, they do what they did last year, maybe show a little improvement. I thought there was a chance they make a bowl game. I didn't expect this, you know, where they have a chance to win the conference and make the playoff. But yeah, it sounds like Dion's staying around. He's got a good group of weapons coming in. I wonder about the long-term tenability of that situation. Like, you look at what happened to Florida State this year. I kind of think Colorado's in for one of those years, if not this year, next year, or if not next year, the year after, just because at some point you do lose so much. You have so much turnover and you lose so much, where it's like next year you're losing Shedeur, Travis, and a whole bunch off that defense. Like, I think they're in for a bit of a regression at some point, but I mean, the way they're keeping the train on the tracks is really impressive. Like, landing Juju, that's no small feat. And I know there was a lot of like, hey, this feels like something that was ultimately coming. But Indiana made a big push. USC did fight to keep him in the class. And Juju took this process very seriously. He wouldn't have committed if he didn't think, one, that Dion was sticking around, or two, that Dion didn't have a plan for him.
Hey, let me ask you something. I was going to transition to Wisconsin real quick, but let me take advantage of your recruiting eye. When you look at what Nebraska's got in the class, you and I talked last week about, because you know I have an affinity for Dvorak and kind of what he's been able to do, and this will be the first time, I think, in his tenure with guys like Shavers and McGahee, and he's got Muberry, Jones, and Merritt in this class. When you look at those three guys in this 2025 class, how do you kind of slot them in terms of, maybe not top to bottom, but skill sets as you see them working their way into the second level at Nebraska?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I think Christian Jones is a future, like, the strong side backer, maybe even the jack. Like, I think he's a guy that can play jack or play strong side. I think Dawson is a guy that's probably going to play weak side, with every now and then have an opportunity to kind of creep up and blitz. Pierce, I don't know where you put Pierce. I wouldn't lie to you. Like, that's one where I think some of his better skills, he's got the length to play jack, but he's not, like, the passer skills aren't on tape like they are with Christian Jones and Dawson Merritt. Dawson, we've seen him brush the passer. With me, it's just like, he's 6'2", about 210 pounds. Like, I think he's going to be limited size wise. So I think he's a guy that's better out in space. And I think, you know, he's best at weak side backer. I think Christian's best at strong side, but has some pass rush ability. We've seen him play for y'all at outside linebacker. I think he can do some of that jack stuff. Pierce, I think, is best at weak side as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if they rotate him a bit around and use him like they use Javen Wright.
His frame is the biggest? Or
yes, I think the frame and also his ability to kind of like float in coverage. I think he does a really, really good job of sinking in coverage, and he's really natural kind of passing things along. I noticed that in 7-on-7 and noticed it again this season. Like, he's just really natural in coverage.
Pierce is probably too big to stay at safety long term, but like, how much of an advantage is having somebody that is that good in coverage and kind of has that safety background? I mean, are we looking like sort of like a John Bullock situation there, where he's got some of those cover skills coming from safety?
Different frames.
Yeah, different body types.
Yeah, different frames, and I think what they're going to be asked to do is going to be different, if y'all agree. Like, I think in the Big Ten, I think you have Pierce on tight ends and running backs, and you have Bullock on like slot receivers and running backs, you know?
Let me ask you something here. Of the three things that I'm kind of pulling away from Wisconsin getting ready for tomorrow, they don't give up sacks. So getting after the passer will be something. They have been a little leaky stopping the run. That's another component. And Locke has thrown an interception in every game he's played. Of those three things, those three indicators, which one do you think will be the most determinant of the outcome tomorrow?
I think the running game. I think if Nebraska can get that going, I think they'll have an opportunity, because I think tomorrow is the type of day where you force them to crowd the box and you try to win some one-on-one matchups, because you're going to have those opportunities. Unlike USC, I think you have an athletic advantage on the perimeter with some one-on-one matchups, and I think if this staff is who they say they are, and I think it's an opportunity for Dana Holgerson too to kind of encourage the fan base that this is an offense that can run the ball, that he's going to be willing to run the ball. I think Wisconsin, like you're saying, they are leaky, and I think Nebraska, if they're healthy, has the capability to kind of run the ball on them. I think that's the most important thing tomorrow. I do think pressure. We saw that against USC too. I think Nebraska is going to be able to get pressure on Locke. Will they be able to get home?
Pretty good against in pass pro.
For sure, and that's the thing. They may be able to pressure him and force some quick throws. I don't know if they get home at all. I'll say this: I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska finishes the day with 0 sacks. Like you said, Wisconsin's O-line's done a good job. I just think Nebraska tomorrow. I think their wins and their plays behind the line of scrimmage are going to have to come in the run game.
That's our guy Tim Verghese inside Nebraska. Tim, we appreciate it as always. Have a good weekend.
Always good stuff.
Yes, sir, you too.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, when you always, you get in the process of the season, you try to take a day-by-day approach, try to bring that up with the guys at all times, and I always tell them one day at a time, and just like that, it's here we are, whether it's 10 years I coached in the NFL or whether it's, life in general just goes by fast. So I was talking to you before we got started of last time we chatted, it was training camp, which felt like maybe a week ago, and here we are really 12, 13 weeks into the season. Maybe it was so it's just, it does go by fast, especially when you're so involved in the day-to-day process or grind of getting ready for a season.
We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, about halfway through the show. That's DBM Ravi Lulla. We're live here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can still come down not only to have some great breakfast, but you still have a chance to win some tickets and a parking pass to the Wisconsin game tomorrow. Make sure you come down and hang out with our friends from Tickets for Less and get a little breakfast. Maybe say hi to DB. He's feeling very personable this morning.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
You don't have a game today, so you're not as wound up.
No.
Sometimes you're a little tightly wound on game day.
I know. Yesterday was not a great day.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like tapering.
Kind of even keel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steady Eddie.
Trying to get that thing right.
And say no.
I'm trying. I gotta take my mom back her car.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got an 11 o'clock appointment, so it like puts me under the gun.
Well, I mean, you gotta take care of D. What are we doing?
Well, gotta put a little gas in there, get it washed, get it back to her.
No, I wanted to kind of return to what we were talking about with Nebraska and Wisconsin here, because I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Coach Rule yesterday, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Coach.
Very, very brief, lot brevity yesterday from Coach.
Nice
Rule.
little 8-minute, little nice. Although the Thursday ones are usually shorter than the Mondays. The Mondays are usually our long extemporaneous Matt Rule. But he said something that I was really interested in terms of the pressure. I don't know if pressure is the right word, but the gravity is the word he used of what the guys are going to feel tomorrow. The seniors are going to feel tomorrow.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's something you've been through in a very different circumstances, but you still had a pressure on you guys because of what was still on the table in terms of your goals for the season.
I'm terrible to ask. Number one, I'm not sentimental. Number two, like I was a captain, so I didn't have to wait in line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got in and out, so I didn't have the anxiety. And number three, we had the Big 12 championship game looming. So it's kind of a blur.
Yeah.
And I'm not, that's just not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You know, to talk about the magnitude of those guys and what they'll be going through tomorrow. But I do think, I do think for these guys, it's going to be more important than it normally would because so much has been made of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we spoke this into existence about what they've been through and these guys coming back and what it means and, you know, the relationship with the fan base and kind of what they've been through and being the core of starting something special and kind of being on the ground floor. And so,
and that's something that Coach Rule and them have kind of put on themselves about being the group that breaks through.
Right. So, like, it will be interesting tomorrow. That's for sure. And you got, what, 30 guys?
Yeah, I think he said 30 are walking through.
You know, and we'll see what happens with.
Some of them could come back, but.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Marquise and Jamari. I know he talked as though it was a foregone conclusion, but you know, lots of things can happen.
Yeah,
and but it's a big group. It's a big group,
and I'm really interested to see because we've talked so many times this year about are guys able to kind of take the emotions out of it and just make it about football. When Nebraska's been able to do that successfully this year, they played really well. When you go all the way back to Colorado. I go, hey, if this is about football, Nebraska's going to win this game, right? Then we go to USC. You're like, hey, if Nebraska can make this about football, you feel good about Nebraska winning that game. We saw it at Indiana. We saw it at Ohio State. When Nebraska's able to make it about football, they're pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
How confident are you that they're able to make it about football tomorrow?
Well, that's the part I don't know. If I could cap the emotions, I'd be really, really good.
Yeah.
Because of the X's and O's I can see.
Right.
But emotion is something you can't really put a gauge on. I do think it's interesting. It's down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's been as high as 2.5, and not that Vegas has a great feel once the betting public gets involved, but there, you know, with whatever is swirling or not swirling. I mean, we got guys, you know, that like feed the rumor mill and it's just super unprofessional stuff. You saw Coach Rule shoot down, you know, the Malachi Coleman questions yesterday. Whatever's going on with Tommy Hill. Those are things that if you can set aside and compartmentalize and you make it about football, it's a good matchup, right? The three key things that I think will be of some relevance. Luck does have a propensity to turn the ball over. He's a 9-9 guy. Turn it over in every game he's played. Can you make that string continue? They have protected the quarterback well. They're among the tops in the conference in terms of not giving up sacks. But when Nebraska plays well defensively, they do it by getting after.
They're really good against the quarterback.
They get after the quarterback. So will that give? And the other thing that I brought up is, you know, Wisconsin's had a hard time stopping the run.
Yeah.
And so can Nebraska take advantage of that? If you could boil it down to like those three things, it's like you said about just making it about football. Can they make it about football? I don't know if senior day is an advantage or not, because I can't cap the emotions that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
It's probably different guy to guy. That's not like a group.
I do think this week has been highly, highly competitive, though.
That's good.
Right?
It's a good start.
Well, you have to start there.
Yeah. Let's get to our guy, Commander Cody, here on the Hurrdat Hotline. What's going on, Cody?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'll make it quick. Is Nebraska more likely to go 3-0 this weekend or 0-3? And if they go 3-0, how annoying will Twitter be?
What's the third sport?
Volleyball.
Volleyball?
Have a great day, boys.
Hey, wait, Cody. What's the third sport?
What's that?
What's the third sport? Are you going men's, women's basketball or volleyball?
Men's basketball, football, volleyball.
Okay. Nebraska will not go 3-0.
I also don't think they're going to go 0-3.
Oh, neither.
Although Wisconsin's good in both. I mean, in volleyball. I'm talking volleyball.
Knock on wood. I feel the best about football.
Really?
Yeah, I don't understand the line.
I feel the best about volleyball.
And maybe the, maybe it's the 12 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you just watch tape,
yeah,
I feel good about the football matchup.
I do too. I think they've got to. I mean,
I'll say 2-1 because I always believe in volleyball.
Yeah, I would say 2-1 as well. But if we're going to answer his question, just
more apt,
straight up,
more apt
3-0 is more likely than 0-3.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think. I mean,
I like being 3-0
because as you know, even though I think it's even though I think Nebraska is probably an appropriate 10-point dog to Creighton, like that's a Nebraska team that has given Creighton trouble in the past. Like they could, like there's a path to victory for Nebraska basketball. I think more than there is a path.
They're still playing this game too early
in the season.
Yeah, I know.
They used to play like first.
Jacob gave the most Jacob answer yesterday. He's like, well, at the time play that game later.
They used to play like first week of December.
But I do think, right, especially given how the schedule's getting ready to shake out with these tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what happened with the Classic last night and Baylor with the game winner. How about Roach?
Yeah.
Yeah, big
for Baylor there.
Yeah, big shot.
Huge shot for him.
So I'll go closer to 3-0 than 0-3.
Yeah, if I had to pick one of the extremes, 3-0 I think is more likely.
I don't love the basketball matchup at all, though.
I don't either, and I think it's way more likely that Creighton starts to shoot better than Nebraska scores enough.
Well, do you believe the Kansas City Creighton or previous to that?
I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think the truth is, in the as often is not on either of the extremes there.
If Trout and McAndrews shoot the ball like that well from the perimeter in space, it's going to be very tough to do much. Very tough because I think they're going to want to collapse on Ryan.
Yeah, in the past they've just not let Kalkbrenner beat them.
Tag off screens.
So if you're going to have guys that knock down open shots because there's going to be plenty of them. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We've had a really good week. We've had to deal with a little bit of, I think USC had a flu outbreak, so this hit us too. So we've had a lot of guys in and out with being sick. So, but in terms of actual practice and reps and all that, it's been a good, hard, tough week. Guys have been good.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla out here at our lovely live breakfast. Still time to join us for a little bit over another hour, and still time to win those tickets from our friends from Tickets for Less. DB?
What up? I always think tackles for loss.
I do too. TFLs?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like it. We get some TFLs tomorrow, be in good shape.
Yeah, man. Havoc plays. Havoc.
We like Havoc when we're doing it to other people.
I'm kind of more a controlled chaos guy, but
it's kind of like Havoc.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, you know.
A little bit.
I wanted to get into a little NFL because we almost always run out of time during Bet On It.
Because you want to remind me that a team that I cheer for got beat by a caricature?
No, I didn't want to do that. I was going to move on. It seems like you haven't quite moved on from getting beat by,
it was expected
by Jabu. Yeah, it was, because you told me, you're like, hey, that line's stinky.
Yeah, it was my lock it up.
And I'm sitting there and I go, yeah.
Somebody said, well, I didn't know if you were joking. No, in that segment, I want to be right.
Cleveland's bad.
Yeah.
But they still beat you.
Yep.
How much are you going to blame the snow?
So my buddy, he's like, hey, what do you really think? And I told him, and he's like, figures you'd say that. And I'm like, there's nothing. I'm not being a contrarian. Like, the line isn't right.
Line was stinky.
Yeah.
That's a bad Cleveland team. And
they won.
It's a bad quarterback.
And Pickens lost his mind momentarily. Good player.
He's a good player. He's
certifiable.
He's a little, you know, the Steelers have had a few of those at wide receiver.
Yeah, I didn't understand the whole Fields thing, but I mean, to each their own.
I don't understand anything that's happening over there, to be honest.
With the Steelers?
Yeah. I don't get it.
They're in first place in their division. What is there to not understand?
I mean, just why you mess around between Fields and Wilson?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
Either it is or it isn't.
What are you coming in here bebopping, smiling for?
Okay, he's just happy that the Jets aren't the only dysfunctional franchise in the NFL.
Still the poorest run franchise in the NFL.
But at least his crosstown rivals, the Giants, are trying to be as dumb as the Jets are. I don't know that it's dumb. I mean,
how was that presser?
Rough.
By the way, we got a Daniel Jones doppelganger. I mean, he looked he was like visibly shook.
Well, not just him, but like, did you see the Drew Lock interviews too?
Yeah.
Where he's like, I was under the impression I was the number 2 QB. Like, you think that's going well in that locker room?
Yeah. Wait, DeVito? What?
Can you imagine if that happened at Nebraska?
No.
Like, let's say, God forbid, something happens to Dylan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go, and he names Daniel Kalen the starter.
Yeah.
And Heinrich Haber goes, I was under the impression I was the number 2 QB. Can you imagine this place would burn to the ground?
No. Dable, I'm telling you, 8 openings.
Yeah, that's going to be one of them.
Eight openings.
That's 100% going to be one of them.
I was going to settle on 7, but I'm going with 8.
Wanted to get to a couple of the games this weekend.
Why?
Because I want to know what you think.
Oh,
you're out here handing out winners. I'm trying to get some of those.
All right. I'll see what I can do for you.
I almost never listen to you, but I might start.
That's 100% true.
I might start sometime.
All right.
It's hard to disagree with you all the time and then be like, no, he's probably giving me good advice on this.
You conflicted?
Yeah.
What a deal rod.
It's like, man, he's giving me bad advice on everything else, but he is picking winners.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to do with that.
Enjoy it.
Also, I see the squirrels running in your head on how I get to these processes.
They're hamsters, not squirrels. I don't do squirrels.
Oh, yeah. The squirrels are what you chase, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So, I see the hamster wheels going in your head as you figure these things out. And I'm like, I'm not sure I trust that process.
Correct.
I'm like Joel Embiid. I don't know if I trust the process anymore.
Yeah, wow.
That thing, speaking of poorly run franchises.
Yeah, Morey, he can fix it.
I don't know. He's the one that did it.
Yeah, I didn't believe one iota in chemistry. Did you see what he did to Houston?
Yeah, chemistry's overrated.
Apparently with him.
Unless you're Walter White. But I
haven't seen Breaking Bad, and even I get that reference.
You get the reference. He was cooking meth.
Yeah, algorithm TikTok.
You do love your TikTok.
Sometimes I feel like I can just watch series.
Oh, I've watched a ton of stuff, and I'm like, I know what happens.
I credit TikTok to my Peaky Blinders sensation.
There is a couple big lines tomorrow or Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of double-digit lines. One of them, I think, is going to get covered by the dog. One of them, I think, is getting covered by the favorite.
So Kansas City
and Panthers is -10.5. Commanders and Cowboys -10.5. Which one do you think I think is covering? Which one do you think I think is by the favorite and the dog?
I think you think the Commanders will cover and Kansas City will not.
That's correct. Look at you. Do you agree?
The
Panthers have low-key been playing better.
I actually like Kansas City.
Do you?
Yeah.
Look, see, now I feel like you are just being a contrarian.
You can tell by my delivery.
I know.
You can dislike the Chiefs.
Yeah, Kansas City will cover.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think the Panthers have been playing a little better.
That's fine. They're still the Panthers.
You think the Commanders cover?
So I think this is why I like Kansas City.
Because the Cowboys are doo-doo.
Bryce Young will struggle mightily with that front.
Okay, fair.
That front for Kansas City is the real
monsters.
Deal.
Yeah.
And Chris Jones
is wrecking people.
He's incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He can play all 7 spots, even though there's only from a shade to a 7.
Yeah.
Bryce Young will struggle. That secondary will be all over those passes. So I like Kansas City to cover. I get the double. I heard what B. Edwards said. Give me the Chiefs. Dallas, on the other hand, that seems too easy. They're awful. They get beat by 30. What? Last couple weeks in a row?
Yeah, 24 last week against the Texans.
And
we're like, that line's not big enough. What's going on?
I don't like it.
It's 20-some the week before.
Yeah. They're getting their head beat in, and they're not getting any better.
So 10 seems low.
It does seem low.
Yeah,
that one feels like free money.
Yeah. I'm in opposite world of you.
You're going Dallas.
I like Dallas.
Although Dallas did burn you last week on the free money versus stinky line.
But I don't. Vegas, they're not going to keep doing that. See, so last week is why I feel better this week. They're not going to keep doing that. The lines have been off the last 2 weeks with Dallas, and they got their doors blown off. And you're going to give the Commanders 10.5?
So here's where I'm wondering with Dallas, because there's a few teams like this. Dallas, I always wonder about public money. That's one of those where I look at and I go,
yeah, but people would be fading them, though. Even their fan base is out, so they're not going to, like, crank money just because they're a publicly bet team. They would want to win money more than they'd want to give it away.
I don't know. I've met a lot of Dallas fans. I feel like they're pretty stupid.
Yeah, I know, too, and one of them is super tight, and he's been with the same job for 35 years, and this guy would fade Dallas till the cows come home. And he's the biggest Dallas Cowboys fan I know, outside of my sister. No, it's close. No,
Yeah.
I'll go with Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way he'd put any money on Dallas.
I don't know. I've met some pretty dumb Cowboys fans.
He's frugal to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way. No way.
So you're opposite on me on Commanders and Chiefs.
Yep.
This is a team you like. Eagles, Rams.
Yeah, so
Eagles are 2.5.
I know. I coach with a guy. When was the last time you seen a Rams quarter zip?
Ooh,
worn by somebody not named John Bishop.
I'll say that was last John Bishop. That's the only one.
Yeah, so Trev came in the other day with and you're not even supposed to wear blue at our place.
Trevor?
T-Love. Big Rams guy. 2.5.
Yeah, Eagles 2.5 on the road. Favorites.
He touched it. He touched it.
Man,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, because just last week, the Eagles are really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the best team in the NFL that people think isn't very good.
Yeah.
The Eagles are good.
They're way better than
it's a good football
I thought they
team.
were even like a month ago.
Now, having said that,
taking the Rams.
I take the Rams. I would. It's not enough, and the Rams are starting to get healthy.
So the Rams are playing well.
Yeah,
the Rams are playing well, and
wouldn't surprise me if the Rams won the West. Even though I've been a Cardinals honk all year.
The Rams are a scary team. I do want to stay in the West because I think that's one of the most interesting divisions in football right now. Cardinals -1 Seahawks. Your Arizona Cardinals.
Where's that game?
That's at Seattle,
and it's only one.
Cardinals are a 1-point favorite at Seattle.
Yeah, I'll take AZ.
Yeah.
All things being equal, which this game is.
Yeah.
You think the home team in Seattle would be worth more?
Favored?
Give me the Cardinals.
All right,
that might be your lock of the week.
You think so?
Yeah. Maybe.
Right. We'll save it. We'll go through we'll go through our college games and bet on it. We'll see if you still think that's your favorite one of the week. Last one in the West, the 49ers go on the road as a 2-point dog to Green Bay. Do we get any separation in the West this week?
I'm surprised they're favored.
Who?
The Niners are favored?
No, they're down. They're 2-point dogs.
Oh, yeah, I like the Niners.
As dogs there?
Yeah, because I think.
So here's the $1 million question. I don't know if they're just playing gamesmanship about Brock Purdy or what.
No, the Niners will win.
Regardless?
Yeah, the Niners will win because Green Bay's the better team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. You're at Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
The weather will be
crappy,
average at best.
Yeah.
And it's less than a key number? Oh, give me the Niners all day long.
I worry about Brock Purdy. If Brock
all right.
Purdy's not playing, I'm not interested.
Don't you worry your pretty little head.
I am going to worry. I like Brock Purdy.
Be all right.
He's my guy. We will get to our college games during Bet On It, but coming up next, we've got our guy Mike Sautter. We've got some high school to get to. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, Hurrdat Sports Radio. Coming up next.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Mike Sautter.
Yeah.
Mike Sautter.
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot.
Mike Sautter.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DBM Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by our friend Mike Sautter from Neb Preps. What's up, Mike?
Not much. You
feeling good?
Yeah.
You feeling good? Because
the music got me going.
You feeling good?
Playing goofy music at 8 o'clock on
goofy
Friday
music.
morning.
It's not Lil and Dub Babies.
No, I went through my playlist this morning. You know what it was?
Brian McKnight. There was Brian McKnight on there.
He probably.
I like Brian. Yes.
So
Brian McKnight.
You want the order?
Jodeci, Brian McKnight, all the same.
I went with. I played both of those. I played Casey and JoJo.
You needed to calm down.
It wasn't Jodeci. It was Casey.
Yeah.
That's Mike Sautter smushing music.
So I'm
yeah.
Now I don't want to finish the rest of the playlist because it was Adele.
Love Adele. Huge fan of Adele.
Yeah,
she is
easy on me.
Beautiful woman.
So it was Adele, Phil Collins, Teddy Swims, Brian McKnight,
Casey and JoJo. Oh, mine was Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, and then it had a little. What else was on there? I listened to that about 4 times.
Raw
to
mania.
make a thing go round.
You are now about to witness.
Yes, the strength of street knowledge.
Boom.
Mike, before we get into it, and to
he said you needed to calm down. I'm just wow. Like Sautter here for saying DB's crazy.
That's not what he was saying. That's not what he was saying.
Nah.
He was saying,
Jay.
Look, saying that game day stuff's working. That's what he's saying.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
I can't even say what I want to say because everybody will be mad. But let me just tell you, that ain't it. That ain't it.
So, Mike, there's going to be a NEB Preps award show.
Yeah, a lot of people coming.
Wait, is it the 2nd or the 3rd?
It's Tuesday. December
3rd.
Robbie was building my calendar for me the other day.
I'm trying.
First Tuesday.
Like, wait a minute, you can't do this and this. You're going to be here, and I was like, wait, I am?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's the night because we got to go back to Lawrenson.
We got our friends out there at Lawrenson.
Wait, what's their name again?
Lawrenson.
Thank you.
Lawrence.
I don't know what you said.
There's the T.
I said Uruguay.
Not Kyler Lordson. There's difference.
We talked about him this morning with Cam.
Stud.
Yeah,
absolute stud.
He's even better on film.
He's the absolute stud. Anyway, the Preps Award Show. Let me get to that.
Yeah.
Why?
So
you act like this is your segment.
You
act like you're the 9 o'clock on Friday. Why does it have to be about you?
We're almost sold out. We have about 5-10 tickets left, maybe.
Hey,
10.
are we eating? Can we order
food?
Okay.
Yeah, there's food.
Order food. Yeah.
It's a limited menu, like a game day menu, kind of condensed because we're gonna have a lot of people in here.
Yeah.
And because we're basically shutting down the whole bar.
Yeah.
Why didn't I just ask you?
She's the only one that knows anything.
Well, and she would have got to it a lot faster than he will.
Well, yeah, that's okay.
Sorry.
But we're gonna, for the people that can't make it, because we only got about 5 tickets left, as you were saying. We're gonna stream this thing on the internets.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, we're gonna do a whole
thing. It's sold out. Damon.
It's sold out. We're shutting down the whole bar.
Sold out.
Shutting down the whole bar. It's a big place.
Good story. I like it.
Player of the year,
awards.
Player of the year, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, special teams player of the year for all 7 classes from A to 6 man.
And big game chain.
And big game chain of the year, player of the year. whoever had the biggest game in the big game chain games that we covered.
Big game. Yeah. Back on the chain.
I have a good idea of who's going to win.
You have a good idea?
Yeah.
Wait, but
I'm just glad you finally took my advice and nominated my guy Cade Vermoss for a player of the year.
I'm sorry, but if you ask your compadre,
so I told him people don't understand how hard. Like there was serious knockdown discussions.
Yeah,
this isn't like some willy nilly.
No.
Pick a name out of a hat.
No, there was a
there were some
of good
strong
this
debates that went on at this
We
table.
were yelling at each other.
I didn't yell.
I yelled
you
at Jacob.
Yelled. Yeah.
I mean, that's not unusual.
And it's funny
it might have been about Vermont.
Because you know what? That started it.
Yeah. Well, because the numbers aren't. They don't
so
jump off
important to their team.
Listen, that started it.
Yeah.
Remember?
He was so important.
And that's why he's player of the year, not offensive or defensive, right?
And I wouldn't say Jacob was anti. He just gave some other options statistically.
Yeah.
And Sautter was like, well, he's a two-way guy, and you got to be in there. And then Jacob was like, well, okay. And then Sautter, sorry.
Yeah.
And Jacob just tried to keep the
Jacob
peace.
was Jacob.
Yes.
And
tried to
Sautter
keep
was
the peace.
Sautter, and, sparks fly.
And I wanted to look at I just want to look at Jacob sometimes. I'm like, you're a jerk to me. Why would you let him bully you? Like,
I don't bully him.
Yes, you tried. I was very disappointed in your delivery.
I try and bully him too. He doesn't let me.
I wanted to shield him. I'm like, Jacob, if that was me, you'd have been like, dude, shut up. Sautter was like, well, What?
As long as my guy Cade Vermoss got his love, that's all that's important.
So Jacob will literally flip through how many pages of statistics was he?
A lot of notes.
He'd read.
He's got those notes.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So anyway, December 3rd.
December 3rd.
And you're gonna stream it.
We're gonna stream it. Yeah.
You know I don't like to eat and work, so I'm not really working though. I'm just kind of a spectator.
Oh, so you're just hanging out?
Yeah. I'm
seeing your guy Tay.
Yeah.
Nominated.
We still got some decisions to make on some stuff there.
Is it like the minutia we were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I thought we left with figuring that out.
We still have some okay, this person from this team is definitely going to win, but which one? And then there's a reason why kids are nominated for 2 things. Put it that way.
I understand.
Mm.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to actual games.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
They're going to be there's some that they're going to be.
There's some sensational matchups.
Class D1 game, 8-man one is going to be.
Yeah, we talked to both Kuda and we talked to Sautter.
Yeah,
real good.
Very similar in their delivery.
Both teams
and some football junkies.
They're both led by rushing quarterbacks because 8-man that's mainly what you do. Yes,
Ethan and Wilkie.
Yeah, Ethan has.
Even Verghese is excited. He has that game.
Mm-hmm.
This dude, he's like, man, this game's going to be sensational.
Good. So Barrett has 2,624 rushing yards and 36 touchdowns.
That's a lot.
And Ethan has 1,510. Now Sandy Creek throws it around a little bit more. So, I mean, Rimpey is very good for Sandy Creek. He leads them in every receiving statistical category. 35 catches, 792, and 13 touchdowns. He's also the team leader in total tackles with 110.
Yeah, you see that a lot.
Yeah.
And
an 8-man.
But
here's the thing. Stanton doesn't throw it very often. Sandy Creek has 27 total sacks as a team. That's a high number for 8-man.
Mm-hmm.
So, something's going to have to give there. We're just going to see quarterbacks just hammering that thing at each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's the game we wanted to see since the semifinals of last year of 2023.
It's kind of how I feel about Bennington and Scott too.
That's kind of how I feel about A too. I mean,
people wanted to see
wanted to see Millard South, West Side last year. They've wanted to see it all year this year. People wanted to see Bennington Scott all year last year, all year this year. Like it's kind of the year that everybody's getting the matchups they wanted.
Class B, that game, and it can't go the same game flow that it did the first time
because of the special teams.
Yeah, there's just no way.
Pretty wonky in some of those things.
There's no way. So I looked up this stuff. Well, it was I guess this morning before I went to bed. Van Dyke for Scott, and this is wild.
Which one?
Quarterback.
Okay,
Dylan. So it's wild for Scott if you think about their history of just running the veer and all that stuff. So Van Dyke needs 335 yards to tie the single-season Class B record that Jack Dotzler set of 3,421 yards. And then Christian Banker was the previous Class B single-season record holder for receiving yards at 1,276. Well, Joe Kaliga has right now, before one more game, 1,449.
He is dynamic.
He also has
really good.
Kaliga has 68 receptions, and Cade Reichert from Aurora in 2017 had 74. That's the single season record. And then Shane Orr has 17 receiving touchdowns in 2019 from Roncalli.
Yeah.
Joe Kaliga already has 19, so he's already broken that record.
That was the stretch where they had like 17 oars in a row.
Yeah, yes. yeah. There's going to be a little break, and then there'll be more, but like –
I remember back in the day, way back when he was at Monroe before he went to Roncalli as an alum, I'm like, and his kids were just little. You had no idea. It's just fun. It's just fun to watch
them grow up.
They just grow up, and people do the
so that thing. B game, and then we talked about Kyler Lordson for Bennington, just how good he is. He is 3 tackles for loss away from getting double-digit tackles for loss. He's at 100 total tackles now, and that would be 3 years in a row that he has 100 total tackles and double-digit tackles for loss, which is pretty remarkable. So it's going to be strength versus strength. Like Bennington's defense is the strength, and then Scott's offense has been pretty powerful. So especially those two guys, and Van Dyke's been able to run around a little bit more too. So
it'd be so nice to be able to do those broadcasts in a good mood. Like this is going to really, it's going to really test my professionalism.
See, that's what I've been trying to prepare you for.
Larry's going to be like, man, DB, you're usually better at this. What's wrong with you?
I've been trying to prepare you by testing your professionalism
by
every
LP,
day.
were you not here last night? He's great.
So
speaking of Class A,
let's talk Class A for a second.
Jet Tamala,
pretty good.
Yeah, quarterback. This is how prolific that offense has been. Noah Walters, remember him? He was pretty good in 2021
from
for
East.
Lincoln East.
Yep.
He set the single-season Class A record of 3,402 yards passing. Jet Tamala has 3,444, already past that. and still has a game to go. Jet Tamala has 230 completions on the year, and Alec De Toro, remember him? 2012, Papio.
Oh, yeah.
The Class A record for completions in a season is 243, so he's 13 away from tying that. He's been crazy good this year.
Safe to say that's in jeopardy. He had 13 against us last year on a bad night.
I was saying terrible wind and rain.
There would need to be something crazy happen.
I'm sick of hearing you say that too. So you could knock that off.
Tate Jenkins would have to really the West Side offense. This is my formula, I guess, for winning, if you will.
Oh, go ahead then, Coach Sautter.
Not seeing all the film that you guys get and not being on the coaching staff, but I think Tate probably needs to run the ball a lot. Ground game's going to have to work a lot, or you're patient. You're very patient. Go back to Gretna when you guys were in that state championship game and won, and Caleb had 13 catches, and there was a lot of them that were 7 yard outs.
We have 4 good
that's what I mean.
You have to keep them honest.
Yes, and you have to just be patient with it. You don't have to take shots all the time. Just be patient, moving the ball down the field. Keep that offense off the field.
So you've been pretty much all year to the joke that DB made. Is that you've said pretty much all year something crazy would have to happen for.
He's not alone.
I get it, but I'm he's the only one I'm talking to. That something crazy would have to happen. Something crazy would have to happen for Millard South to lose.
Right.
Do you still feel that way?
I think it could be a little closer than we think. Now, injuries in that game, there's some major injury concern of if kids can play and if they can, and they're very key players for them. For both teams, that may matter a lot in this game, and it's something that is.
Well, we won't know.
Yeah, we won't know
until
Monday.
Yeah.
If kids can go or not. So, one is.
I wonder one thing because you talk too much, so you're going to say things I don't want you to say. Something.
I wasn't going to say names.
So I mean, it's not that people don't know. It's just not. I mean, it's,
right.
We'll just move on. One thing that would really help me, I wonder who makes the line calls for Millard South. Is it Coach Wisdom or is it like an offensive lineman? Because they do
their offensive line is really
good job of getting into the right play, right? Because we've seen, we're super nerds, so you chart effective pressures, dropping 6, whatever. Their communication appears to be at a high level. I don't know if that's I mean, it might be Glab because I think he's
Glab. Yeah, he's their O-line coach.
Man in the middle too. No, I'm talking about
Carter. Yeah. He's had a great year.
Dude, who you telling?
Yeah, he's been really good. He's been really good. And that's something that I think might be a key. Might be a key too. Is getting pressure on Tamala up the middle instead of from the outside.
It's the whole thing, man.
Right.
It's been. I'm glad we had a couple of days, but you have to. You're not gonna get it all. You got to pick something.
Yeah.
Hey, remember
what are you okay with giving up? That's what we always talk about, right? Yeah. What's the thing you're okay with sacrificing?
Also, a guy that has helped them out on the offensive line is DJ Gross. Remember him from McCook? He's their assistant offensive line coach too. So. Good to see DJ out there. He had obviously his dad was a pretty good coach at Cook. So
it starts with 55 though, like you can tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
clearly.
And their offensive line's been great, and Amir Hill is that kind of difference maker guy that you got to account for everywhere.
He's by far, I think the biggest. You make a mistake at 6.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. 100%.
Often can run, but usually he's already down the field.
Yeah.
One doesn't need much.
No. And they'll use him. He's had some carries.
He doesn't need much. Yeah, I've seen him crease some guys after a catch where it's like you go back and you replay it and you're looking at angles and stuff like that.
And you're like, I think he had the right angle.
I'm like, the guy's pretty fast.
And in the punt return game, they can use him too. Return game stuff. So
we have got to find a way to win special teams.
Yeah. Might be tough. Well, Keenan's pretty good at special teams.
Man,
Right,
if they punt or kick
should
it
we
to
bother
Keenan,
showing up?
if they punt or kick it to Keenan, then
You don't want. Yeah, you don't want to kick it to Keenan.
Are you buying it? Are you
No.
Are you listening to this? Dude?
I'm not saying. I just said I think it probably will be a little closer than most people maybe think.
Yeah, that's because you got a ways to come down from 21.
I didn't say 21.
Yes,
I've never
did.
said 21.
Yes, you did.
I've
Yes,
never.
You, you said three. You said 3 scores.
In June?
3
A
scores.
long time ago. I will stand on my thing that I've said all year since June was Millard South is the most talented team. I think they're the number 1 team. I think they're the best team. Like I've said that all year. And that's not a knock on anybody. They just are really good. Yeah. Like they're hard to stop.
And I agree.
So,
so you've said the same thing.
I know.
Braylon's going to have to be really good. Like Braylon Warren's going to have to be really good. That's a fun kind of quarterback matchup because both those guys are, in my opinion, pretty darn good quarterbacks and high level ones at that. So we haven't had that since, I guess, Rizak and Zane. That was a couple of years ago.
So I've got Central City and Wahoo. You like the fact that Central City has enough versatility offensively, running the ball with Kais and
they have a run game which absolutely helps. That's totally different.
Wahoo is really good defensively.
Yeah, for a team that wants to throw it around in Central City, well, Wahoo has 15 interceptions on the year too. So they've given up, I think it was 80 points all year, if I'm correct, which I can look real fast. But Wahoo's defense is fantastic. But yes, they've given up 80 points and they've scored 633.
That's pretty good.
Shane,
kicker,
do we have Coach? You said it's going to voicemail? He might be in the building.
Their kicker
might be actually working.
Yeah.
This is how much Wahoo's offense.
Trying to track him down.
This is how much Wahoo's offense has been just scoring touchdowns. Their field goal kicker is 1 for 1 with a long of 26 on the year.
Yeah, scoring some touchdowns.
He's 58 of 64 on point after attempts.
Well, every time you
that's not there.
Every time you roll tape, like Brigham's gone for
Brigham
60.
He's awesome. He's 1,900 yards.
You think he's better at football or basketball?
He's pretty good at football. He's a pretty good basketball player too.
Which was kind of why I asked the question.
He's a pretty good football player.
Yeah,
he makes so many plays. He can go up and get a ball. I mean, I was there last week and he just popped one. Now, one thing with Wahoo, they like to go left with him. So they really do if you watch it. He popped one for like 60-some yards for a touchdown. And then two series later, they throw like a 25-yard touchdown to him. He just goes up and mosses 2 dudes or jumps over them to get it.
Should be some big crowds this week.
I would think
Monday, Tuesday, right?
The whole city of Wahoo is going to be shut down on Tuesday.
And you have to go through Wahoo to get to Central City.
Yeah. So Central City.
I take that way.
Yeah, you go 92.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You've
never been there?
I'm not going out to Central City a lot.
You go through.
It's
You
not
ever
on
been to
my-
Wahoo?
Yeah, I've been to Wahoo a bunch.
Okay. You take that same highway and you just keep going.
Yeah, I've been to Wahoo a bunch.
Yeah. Then you go through East Brainerd and then Shelby Rising
And the
City.
the place that makes your cheese, JISA. Yeah,
JISA.
Who makes my cheese?
It's like a little stop.
Oh.
I'm like, hey, those are in the grocery stores locally. I think it's pronounced Jisa. Jisa.
I don't know.
It's very popular.
A guy for Wahoo to really, and they can use him on both ways. They have so many athletes, like they use him both ways. Caden Smart had a huge game against Auburn in the semifinal, and he's had a nice year too. Harrison Krieger is another dude that has 2 sacks and 2 interceptions, the block kick. He leads them with 92 total tackles. But one guy is Eli Shada, and if you want to look for like recruiting stuff for next year, that might be a name to keep an eye on. Yes, that is Shada's son. So,
yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And Braylon Iverson, their middle backers, very vocal.
How is he old enough?
Yeah,
that's 03.
Wait, that's Adam's son?
Yeah.
Or Alex? Which one? There's 2 different Shadas.
Is Alex older? Because that would make a little.
They're not. It's not the same.
Okay, I would
Different.
say because Adam Shader he's a year older than me. That'd be
Alex.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I know Alex really well.
Yeah,
which would make more sense.
Does the coach comp stuff?
Yeah, which would make more sense.
Yeah.
Another good dude.
Yeah. So Wahoo's very good, obviously, and talented, but the Central City game is that offense. Their ability to run the ball has been awesome.
Yeah,
and
I think
Parker Zeekman's had a huge year too.
Yeah, Kai's has been really good for them in the backfield too.
It's just a matter of like, can they keep up, like scoring wise, because Wahoo's gonna put up points. I think, they're too good. So can Central City somehow figure out that defense? Because it's been fantastic.
Yeah,
I've said it a couple times this year. Like Bennington and Wahoo playing each other would be awesome because their defenses are so good.
They're built similarly. Shane, are we going to have to pass on the segment
on Coach?
Yeah, he's going to have to redo it and do it on Monday.
Okay.
All right, fine. So I mean, back to the Central City stuff is they don't really. Well, I guess they have a bunch of sacks if you look at it. Damian Malachias has 6. Ryan Turman leads them with 6 interceptions. So they don't have a guy that pops as far as total tackles are concerned, but they've also scored 531 points this year. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, they can definitely score.
Their total they have 5,000 total yards of offense. So could be some points in that one if Central City can keep up.
Mike, is there a game? I know we talked about a lot of really good matchups. Is there one that you are looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I mean, outside the A1 is for obvious reasons. Sure. But I look at that 8-man 1 game I'm excited about. The 8-man 2 game will be good too. That's offense. That's a very prolific offense versus a defense that hasn't given up squat all year. Not squat. So, and they met in week 1. Central Valley won 50-42, and that's the most points that Central Valley has given up all year. Was that 42 to Riverside in week 2-1?
We do have some rematches.
Yeah,
Verghese was trying to get out there. They hadn't gotten back to him yet. He wanted to go out to Riverside.
A lot of rematches in the state championships this year. Coming up next, we've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Mike Sautter here with us as well here on the Pillar Exterior stage. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get out to the casinos in Lincoln or Omaha. You can bet on nearly every major sporting event. DB.
Omaha. Yes, sir.
I think there's some interesting lines in college this week.
Oh, do you?
I do. I think there's some interesting ones.
Well, do tell.
I'd like to talk about it a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You know, since it is Bet On It, we could maybe you can get on some winners for me.
Well, I'm on a heater.
You are
man.
on a little bit of a heater, which
Okay.
is different than being on a humbug.
Shucks.
Which is another thing you say sometimes.
How can you be on a humbug?
I don't know. You say that. That's the thing you say. Oh, just on a humbug. It's like on a whim is usually how you use it.
Yeah. That's exactly.
I'm just
what
on
it
a
means.
humbug, you know.
Weird.
Let's start with
Hot meat kettle.
He's not black.
Okay. I gotta go.
Yeah, the whole Jerome thing was kind of like throwing people.
Oh man. Indiana and Ohio State. Let's start with a big one. We're minus 10.5 there.
Ooh, it's come down.
It did come down. It came down about 3 points yesterday. Let me double check. We're still at 10.5.
In Columbus.
Huh.
That got all the way up to 13.5 at one point yesterday. Because B. Edwards wanted us to buy the point to 14. I don't know if he would still like Indiana at 10.5. That's a much different number.
Fudge. I have to take Ohio State because you're always trying to beat the closing line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would take Ohio State and I'd lay the 10.5.
How good do you feel about that?
Not very, because I don't love Ohio State's productivity relative to their talent. But they're due for an explosion.
I don't like that. I don't know.
I would lay the 10.5. They're due.
I'm leaning Ohio State there as well. Here's one. Our very own B. Edwards is going to be interested in this one. Ole Miss minus 11.5 at Florida.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss.
I do too.
Ole Miss is really good.
They are clicking right now.
And defensively, they're a problem.
And they've actually got something to play for.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's a team that has a legitimate shot at the college football playoff. And there's a lot of people who think they could win a national championship this year. They're playing really well right now.
I mean, I don't know about that, but
I think they're a real contender. Maybe. Well,
there's only going to be 12, so they all have to be somewhat plausible.
I mean, I think they're better than, like, the back end of that.
If you get into the playoff, you have a legit shot because you're into the playoffs.
That's not always going to be true. There's going to be some teams on the back end there that I don't think have a real shot.
Colorado won't have a shot if they get in.
No, that's true. Yeah.
They better worry about beating Kansas. But anyway, keep going.
Don't worry. That one's on here in a little bit. Here's one I really am interested in. Illinois +1 on the road at Rutgers.
I like Rutgers.
You like Rutgers there?
I do.
Stinks a little bit.
Yeah. Those two teams are closer than I think maybe.
They're extremely close.
They're very similar.
And Rutgers is getting healthy.
Yeah. Because that was the issue early or kind of mid-season. Because they were playing pretty well. We kind of liked them.
Although, here's the weird thing, though. I think that game is virtually a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, and the line would reflect that.
It would be. I'm just talking about the matchup.
Yeah.
Right. So there's two different things. When you ask me these things,
you're playing the line sometimes.
I'm playing the line.
Yeah.
I don't worry about.
You're not playing the game.
So what's Rutgers? They have 5 wins.
6-4.
And Illinois is 7-3.
Yep.
Give me Illinois.
Okay.
Give me Illinois.
I'm going to go with Illinois, but I'm biased there.
Nope, too easy to take Rutgers at home. Give me Illinois.
All righty. Stick with the Big Ten here for a second. Penn State -12 at Minnesota.
CBS loves Penn State.
Oh, that's down to 10 now. That is down to 10. Excuse me.
I certainly was going to say Minnesota, and I was even going to say they could win. Give me Minnesota.
I kind of feel like Minnesota could win this game.
Give me Minnesota.
This feels like a Penn State stinker. Yep. And Minnesota's starting to play.
Minnesota's good for one of these a year.
Yes.
Give me Minnesota. I'll take the points.
I was kind of leaning Minnesota there as well. BYU, my Cougars, coming off their loss, first loss of the season, +3 at ASU.
I tell you what, as bad as the Kansas line was last week, this one may be worse.
Ooh, you think so? I think ASU beating Kansas State makes this line make a little more sense.
Everybody loves ASU right now. I mean, Dylan, he's the talk.
Yeah. So you think ASU should be favored by more?
Everybody, but not by much.
Like 4.5,
4.5, 5.
Yeah,
they're keeping
less
it
than
at a key
6.
number 3.
Yeah,
is it 3?
It is. It is 3.
I'll take BYU.
Ooh, BYU on the road as a dog.
Take BYU.
I like it. Yeah, that is a.
Take BYU.
I'm gonna take BYU just because I like BYU. I don't have a good reason. Colorado is a 3-point dog at Kansas.
It's
dog
in Kansas City.
Oh, excuse me, 3-point favorite.
Yeah,
3-point favorite
at Arrowhead.
At Arrowhead, yeah.
Give me Kansas.
I think I'm going Kansas here too. They're playing really well right now.
And I'll be curious to see those guys in the weather.
I'll also be curious to see Colorado now that, like, I know internally they always have had expectations, but they're in a real spot for a college football playoff now. That's different than what they've been doing before.
I'll take Kansas.
Kansas on the +3 there. Army, my honkin' monkins, +14, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame all day long.
I think Notre Dame's going to beat their heads in. I really do.
All day long. That team is incredible.
They're playing so well right now.
And they feel pretty good about themselves.
Yeah.
I think DJ's going to that one.
Is he?
Yeah. That'd be a heck of an environment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
For that game.
As much as I love Army, I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, give me Notre Dame.
Last one before we get to Nebraska here. This one feels stinky. Do you have an idea?
Alabama OU.
Nope.
That's too low.
Oh, yeah.
That could make the discussion because that's only 13, right?
Yep.
Right.
Right conference.
Auburn?
Yep.
Oh, 2.5? Yeah.
Texas A&M, just a 2.5-point dog at Auburn, and Auburn is trash.
That makes no sense.
Auburn is terrible. This is my stinky line of the week.
Yeah, You got to take Auburn.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those
Night
where
game.
it smells so bad.
And you don't play the matchups.
Night game is
That line is disgusting.
Pretty bad.
That is my stinky line of the week.
Yeah.
Texas A&M. I'm learning my lessons. I gotta take Auburn there too. It doesn't make any sense.
You coming over to the other side?
You know, I've been losing money the other way. I'm gonna try and switch things up. I'm gonna start fading myself here. Last one here, Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Give me Nebraska.
You like them for the win?
Yeah.
Just win.
Just win, baby.
That game will be
one.
That game will be.
I think it just popped up to 1.5.
Yesterday, I was closer to like a 20.
No, it's a one again.
I was closer to like a 24-14.
Yeah.
I'm going. I'll go 23-20 Nebraska.
Ooh, tight one.
Toy. 23-20.
How do you think that plays out?
Like
what changed in your mind in the last day to kind of get it narrowed down?
Health.
Okay.
Health.
Without we learned no Tommy Hill yesterday.
That doesn't bother me one bit.
I'm just saying things that were said publicly and out loud, and just things that we know. Things that we know. I think I think Nebraska wins. I think they get bowl eligible. So the number at -1 doesn't matter at all, because if you think Nebraska wins, then you get that there. I just think it's time.
Yeah.
I don't have a good reason. So I just think it's time. Also, Wisconsin doesn't scare me offensively at all.
So if you'd asked me Monday or Tuesday, I would have said I didn't think this game. I thought Nebraska could win by double digits. Because if it was just about football, they would.
Yeah. But what did we say?
They're the better team.
What did we say first thing this morning?
If
you make it about football, Nebraska's fine.
You can replay this on Monday. They're the better team.
I agree. I think Nebraska's better. Can they make it about football?
No, we'll see. I'll take them.
I'll take Nebraska as well.
Nebraska.
Sautter?
Yeah. Just win. Figure out a way.
Figure out a way to win.
7-6, 14.
What's the
13,
total?
No matter.
Total there's 42.5.
Oh, that fits.
Yeah. That's right in your 23-20 is right in your.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right in your wheelhouse.
Like
Yeah.
That's
21.
Let's get it
17, done. Whatever.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook.
You want your lock today?
Yeah. What's my lock?
Take. No. It's in college basketball.
Oh,
okay.
I like the Ohio Bobcats.
Again.
Right, 7.5.
Big Ohio guy this week.
Big Ohio guy.
That's DB's lock of the day.
If you wanted to double it up, take San Jose State catching 7 in the hook.
Fighting Tim Miles?
Yep. No football.
No football.
Oh. Fighting Kenny Niamatalolos. I didn't say that right, but I was close.
Yeah.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Before we get to Matt Vrzal, we got to announce the winners of our Tickets for Less giveaway. Our live winner for coming here at the show is Barb Velasquez. She gets 2 tickets, a parking pass, and some Hurrdat Sports Bar swag, including a gift card. Our social media online giveaway winner is Caleb Miller, who will also get 2 tickets. Congrats to our winners, provided by our friends over at Tickets for Less. Do we have Verz now?
Not yet.
Okay, we will get to Matt Vrzal when he's ready to join us.
Matt.
I was just asking myself, is he mad at me? But I don't think so.
You don't think so?
What'd you do to him this week?
Nothing. I got him into practice.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. Coach Monty's
tight right now.
Keep that thing on lockdown.
Yeah, he was yelling at my guy Matt from Channel 7 the other day.
He's here now.
I'm like, hey, why is he filming our warm-ups?
Warm-ups, bro. Chill out.
You say that to him.
No. Whoa. What do we – the honor of your honor? I feel like you're –
Damon said I looked homeless last week, so I got
Oh, my God.
We're joined now by Matt Vrzal, former –
Hey, what if I flipped you guys off? Does that get you in trouble?
No.
Can I do that?
No.
No, you do what you want.
No, you're okay. You can do anything on YouTube.
Are you really wearing a cream or white blazer?
Yeah.
I think it looks
style.
Is that a turtleneck too?
No, it's a t-shirt.
I can't tell by the
What is
I don't do good. My neck is too thick for turtlenecks. It kind of chokes me out.
big weightlifter guy.
It doesn't stop you from having that big old cranium you got sitting on that thing.
I was born with that huge brain.
How's prep coming? Preparation?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. Winding down. Still haven't heard from a couple coaches, so I guess
we haven't either.
We'll wing it. We'll wing it with them.
So you know what though? Quietly, I'm glad it's not just us. You know, I just don't think he wants to do media.
I get it. There's enough responsibility and things you got to do, and you got a weirdo saying, "Hey, can I come watch you guys practice?" and blah 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 blah, and all that stuff. But and my only hope of it is I just want to do. I got 2 goals: don't cuss and don't piss any moms off. Those are my only 2 goals. If I can get those accomplished, I feel I've done a good job. And so that's. But I just I like to go watch practice. Like watching practice to me is fun, how different people operate, how coaches do things. And I've been to Westside a couple of times. I don't say anything to anybody. I just kind of stand there and observe. And it's how I like it. But I'm excited for it. I think I got a good slate of games. I think all three should be bangers.
Yeah, that D1 one in particular. Have you gotten a hold of Riverside yet?
Oh yeah. Oh no, I haven't. Nope. I
So
talked to Central Valley. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but no, he and sometimes guys like I don't know how often they're there, which is probably bad research by me.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you're just like, hey man, I got other S to do besides talk to your dumb ass. I totally understand.
Hey, that D1 game or that D2 game will be kind of a high-powered offense versus a high-powered defense, so it'll be very interesting.
Well, they rolled it the first game of the year too.
Right.
They played the first game out of the chute, so that'll be an interesting one to me. How they kind of combat that. They probably Central Valley is balanced, you know, and I love the 8-man game because it's full-blown community. Like everybody is involved somehow, some way, and they all have their role to play. And when you get into consolidateds and communities come together, it doesn't always go the best. There's always one side that's like, I don't like those. I still don't like those guys, but we have to play with them. And so to see it all and have the coaches talk about them, it's a cool thing.
I'm just telling you, if House Dodge can do it, anybody can do it.
That's true. Their coach is pretty good up in now.
He's real good. Yeah,
Spears is one of the best ever.
Way good.
Yeah.
Hey, so Matt, of these three things that I've kind of picked out for Wisconsin, you got to tell me which one you think will play the biggest factor. Number one, they're among the tops in the conference. They don't give up sacks. Wisconsin's offensive line. Number two, Locke has thrown an interception in every game. 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Mm-hmm. Or number three, they've been a little leaky. Been able to lean on them. And that front four for them has given up rushing yards. Which one do you think lends itself to the outcome of what you think tomorrow the most?
For me, it's going to be the rush part of it because you've got to get some form of an identity established. Now, all the stats and everything are cool and they're fun to talk about and da-da-da. I think the goal of the day should be just for Nebraska to go out and be the best version of Nebraska football they can be. And if they do that, they'll win, right? But when they go out and they're not the best version of themselves, then you kind of see them fall apart and things don't go the way that we want them to. But I think with the psyche that I just kind of see from the outside of that team, the more they can just focus on what they need to do to be the best version of themselves, almost giving them like less to think about the opponent is going to be better. And I think it's going to help them quite a bit because it's like, oh, you can see it at times, right? Like it'll be humming, it'll be going. And then somebody falters and it's like, oh, well that, and we get in that mindset too. Oh my God, that's a great defensive tackle he went against and this, that, the third happened. It's like, well, yeah, he's a great defensive tackle. He's playing Power 4 Division I football. Like they're all good. Just go out and fix you. Like be the best version of you can be. And then if everybody's got that goal in mind, then we're all going to be okay because we're all just striving to get better ourselves. And then we don't have to worry about anybody or who you're playing or if you're overmatched or if you're a lesser opponent or whatever. Just go out and be the best version of your team you can be.
Ravi asked a question I thought was pretty hard early on. He said, how much of this game do you think will be about just football? Because if it's just about football, you kind of have to like Nebraska's chances. But if we're still chasing demons and it's the senior night and all this, all the stuff that, or you're worried about the state of mind that Wisconsin's coming into Lincoln with and not focused on you, like how much of this do you think will be about just football?
It should. The only thing it should be about is football.
No, I understand that.
But
it's the reality will be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't give you an answer because we've watched this organization bounce up and down, for years now. I mean, as long as some of the senior class has been there, it's a it's a glass box of emotion to steal from Ron Burgundy, but it's
like Ron Burgundy today.
You just have to eliminate all the BS, right? Like, you get to play a game, and now you're getting compensated to play a game in college. That's all you should care about. I get to go play a child's game, and they're going to pay me money and give me an education to do so. Like, well, I think we maybe just have people that think too much in the organization. Just it's not rocket science. We ain't building bombs. We're playing football. I want to go from point A to point B. You don't want me to go from point A to point B. One of the two of us is going to be right. Let's go play for 60 minutes and figure out who's right.
Verz, we heard a lot this week, whether from Coach Rule or from Dana Holgerson, about how the offensive line played. They both kind of said it was their best game of the year. A, do you agree with them that's the best the line's played this year? And B, if so, like, what did you see that was different?
I think they did. It's easily the best game they played all year. It's not even really debatable. There was more than enough time to throw the ball. There were some nice creases that the backs could run through. Now it's the rest of it, right? Ball's got to get out on time. Routes got to get broken out on time. I absolutely loved the little hesitation drop-offs to the tight end. I thought that was really, really smart, because you used them to slow the initial rush, and then you just kind of filtered them out into now SC caught onto it, and you probably couldn't go back to that well anymore, but it was a good wrinkle that they threw in. And I love the fact, Holgerson, we want to handle everybody with kid gloves, and we're worried about feelings, and I don't want to just tell them how it is. You're too good of an athlete, and you're too good of a player to suck this bad at blocking. You're too good of a player and you're too good of an athlete to suck at blocking on the perimeter. Like, that's not a bad thing. Like, it's helpful, because if you go out and you suck at blocking and nobody's telling you suck, then you're just going to think, oh, okay, this must be how it goes. And then you just continue to not do things right. But when you have an authority figure that says you suck at this, you're bad, you should really work to get better at that, kids will take it to heart. Jergs and those guys, it was cut night last night for basketball, and that usually we host the coaches after that. They come in and drown their sorrows. And we're talking about it. One of the coaches said, well, you can't change this, that, the third. And I was like, beg to differ. I was like, I got a lot in here that where they're at now. I was like, I'm about to unleash them on the world. Like, they're ready to roll. But when they got here, they didn't know if they were going to make it. Like, we have a high expectation. If you screw up, you'll be told you screwed up, but you will also be told how you fix it. And then you fix it. And then I got a wide network. I can get you whatever industry you want to get into, but you got to learn how to work first. And you got to be able to take criticism, and you got to, man, I look good. And you got to, like, not go cry in the corner. Like, it's not how life works.
That's Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Pison's Pizzeria. Verz, we appreciate your time as always. And I think you look terrific.
I'll wear a jacket every week for you, Damon, so you don't call me homeless again. That was very hurtful.
I don't think you.
Those were mean words.
Oh, but you don't dress for me, so
take it back. Those were mean words.
I got my fit ready for tonight.
I think you look great, Verz. I love a nice jacket.
No, I look good, but you didn't need to call me homeless last week.
You throw a vest on like I do, you look even better.
Never wear a vest in my life.
Verz, we appreciate it as always.
All right, buddy.
That is the show for today. Congrats to our winners as well for our Tickets for Less giveaway. We will be back on Monday, and cross our fingers, bowl eligible? Maybe? Question mark?
See you. Have a good day. Love you.